Hi friends, good morning and welcome to the training session on transforming procurement from tactical to strategic. When I was putting this name, initially I was thinking, should I say transactions to strategic? But the moment I said transaction, then it is no more procurement, then it is a purchasing. So this is why I intentionally kept the word tactical to strategic. But obviously I'll try to explain what is transaction level also. Now, when we talk of the disruption of COVID-19, and then we want to cope up with Industry 4.0. I think this subject of transformation and change, if you look at the top, I put time for change. And change is constant and change is truth also. So this to me is a very timely for all of us, irrespective of what function we are doing around. I think that change is required. Now, when we talk of transformation to many companies around, I would say still is a big question. Each one has a different answer, let me tell you. I must have worked, after coming back to India in 2010, I must have worked around 80 to 90 companies, either on consulting, either on training or something. But then I found each one has a different answer. It's a big question. Now, answer also it changes depending on the needs. I'm sure among you also, some of you are very transaction level, some of them transaction to whatever you can say, again tactical level, and some are tactical level and some are strategic level. Then next I move to category management level and some have moved to value management. So each one of you is a different level around. So answers may be different. Now to cope up with this diversity of answers, what I've tried to keep the theme, as you can see in the very first slide, transition. Whatever level you are, we're talking of transition. So transition is the first step. Then once I've planned my mind what my transition is going to be, then the second step comes is transforming myself. Now, from what level to what level transforming, I'll go with those best practices as well. And lastly, but not the least, I've kept the transcend part. Transcend means we always say, guys, the best practices we look around, but what is best practices today may not be the best tomorrow. So we want to be ahead of them. There are benchmarks, but we want to exceed the benchmark. And exceeding and plus keeping in mind the digital world which is happening around. So in short, what I have done is we're trying to cover this whole session into 4 sessions. I hope everybody has got the material and everybody got the agenda also. And in the agenda also we have spelled it out 4 sessions. Each session is approximately an hour, but we'll see how it goes up. So transition is the very first one where my focus would be, do we really need to transit? Do we need to change? So my focus would be, and if you have any inputs, please come up. So we want everyone to understand that change is a must. That's the first thing. And what type of change? The transition will answer. The next thing comes with the transforming. Now guys, okay, I'm ready to transform. I made up my mind. I want to change. So then we move into the transformation part. How to do it? And the last is not the least is transcend part. And transcend I have converted into 2 parts. One, on the human angle, because people are very important to us. So whenever we think of a change, the biggest obstructions is the pediments, if I talk around, is people. People don't want to change. They will listen to you. But when this comes to any transformation, the first question would be, what happens to my job? What happens to my function? And when they find their function is going to change, they're getting worried. So that's what we need to do on the transcend part. Then again, I've added up one more part of the digitalization, because without digitalization, this journey would be incomplete. So in short, we have got 4 chapters: transitions, transform, transcend, and the last I've kept to the digital journey. Now with this, friends, I want to now go into the depth of it. Few requests again to you to just keep it easier for everybody around, keep it mute, but whenever you have a questions, please unmute and raise up, no issues around. What we have done after every session, we have kept some poll question. I'm not saying what is right or wrong, but we want to hear from you, still the poll question. And then we have kept a break after 2 hours, because I know 4 hours becomes too long. We'll have 15 minutes break, coffee break after 2 sessions. And after the coffee break, we have session 3, session 4, and lastly, we are keeping Q&A. So this is what we have kept the program for today. But you have anything, please chip in. If anybody wants to add some ideas around, again, welcome also. So let me now start with this. The objective, as I said to you, understanding the procurement landscape. Each one of you is a different landscape. Then we are putting up on the other extreme side, Industry 4.0. That means we want to be Procurement 4.0. And COVID-19, we want to be resilient. We want to be agile. I remember when I came from the business school, nobody used to talk about resilience. Even risk management was very limited. And everybody was talking about the lean, lean, lean. Now people have learned the lesson. Lean is a wonderful thing, but we have to be agile. We should be able to respond in spite of whatever may be. So that concept has changed. Now people are calling agile and lean. Some people are saying agile is much more important around. Resilience means we are fireproof. You guys, I can withstand all the shocks. And competitive. So you have to be differentiators from others. Now, whatever we're talking of transformation, keep in mind we're looking for innovation all the time. What level of transformation you're looking for? Ultimately, we're looking for innovations. Now, the theme you have already seen. What I'm trying to do with this, just trying to explain, the transition is focusing on tactical to strategic. Or you could say transaction to strategic. I'll touch transaction also.
Okay.
And then we are doing around is transformation calls for identifying gaps. I can't think of a transformation if my gaps are different than my colleagues. I'm in X company, another company. I'm looking at the organization to organization. X organization has got these gaps. It may be corporate culture, maybe whatever you may call around. Those gaps are there. There are strengths also, and my roadmap will be different. There's another company in the similar sector. Their gaps might be same, but their strength may be more. So roadmap for transition will be different. So roadmap for each one of you will be different. Keep in mind, it is not one size for all. Let me put this very clearly. The same like when we train our own kids around, each kid is different. Each organization is different. You might be in the same sector, but still the roadmap has to be done based on your gaps and strength. Now for gaps and strength, I don't know whether my colleague, I think, sent you yesterday to do some assessment of your maturity level. If you could do it, wonderful, it'll be very helpful in today's discussion. So we expect everybody to assess their own maturity level. And we have done that maturity level. What we have sent you is a very simple half-an-hour test. It's a psychometric test, which helps you to understand where do you stand. And then exact gaps and strengths we can also identify. Transformation calls for strengthening three things around people. Let me first thing is the people. I know sometimes we underestimate people. We think technology can answer everything. No. I think this is what Bill Gates said once around. You might bring the best technologies, but if people mindset has not changed, people are not with you, technology can't do anything. So I would say the first thing, people have to be made very motivated. We have to have passionation for change. If people are passionate about change, then things will fall automatically. Second thing is the process part. Sometimes we think a consulting company will come and they will tell us, here is the technology, ready-made. No, I would say you have to look your process. Your processes are your culture. You want to have control on few issues around. There's another company in the same sector. Their processes could be different. So keep in mind, your process also has to be re-engineered. Make them simpler. Make them digital. Think of robotic process automation in the processes. The next one is, when we talk of the last in the pillar, transcend calls for going beyond your surpassing your activity. If I made a benchmark, I have to get more than 90%. Why 90? I can go 95, I can go 100%. I even have to cross my conceptual sphere also. So we're getting into that part. So we are short, I would say, we are looking at change management, capacity development, and we'll also touch on the future procurement journey, how the procurement will look like. Some activities will get digitalized, whether we like it or not, but the role will change. But the role will become more important. Let me make it clear also. Whenever there is any situation that happened in the past, I remember 2008 recession, procurement people became more important. Now with COVID-19, when companies are starting going back to stand on their own feet, Procurement is becoming important because cash is short. Companies have limited fund. They want procurement to look for new ideas. So procurement has become very, very important function whenever there's a crisis. Quote of the day, I will just say the second one, which is more relevant to you guys. I would say procurement profession has the best job in any organization. I wouldn't have said this thing 20 years back or even 10 years back, simply because no other has the ability to influence the company. You guys are covering 70% of the total spend. And if you are in the service industry, you are doing at least 50%. So in short, under the today's COVID-19, you are the one who are able to save funds. You are much more important to the organizations. So I will say this is the best job for the organization. Whether organization is appreciating or not is the second question. But to me, the way I look around is the best job. Session 1, now we start with it. Traditional landscape of procurement. What are the trends around? What has COVID-19 taught us? And how do I get more bang from the buck around? So this is what the focus of all of this is need for transition. Whatever level you are, so I'm just trying to focus on that. This is a very traditional procurement cycle. Many of you follow still the same, define the needs. Some companies are not even ignored, they are not even involved in this. Some guys, requisitioner, give you some specs and you take it for granted. I've seen bigger the oil companies having 14 plants. I visited them. Production people give them some request, they just follow it. But while there are equivalent parts available with the better features, but they don't want to change because production people don't want to change. They want the same product which was bought 30 years back. So define the needs. The needs are coming, but are you playing a role in developing the specs? Next comes contract terms. Now I think in the good old days, everybody was saying, oh, we have a boiler sheet, standard terms and conditions. You are the one knowing supplier. If I'm your supplier, you know, Krishan is not reliable. I have to cover this risk into this. Your legal people don't know it. Your standard boilerplate will not help you. You know company to company. This company is based in this country. This company is based here. This I got risk of this type. My country to country relationships are not good. This risk could happen. Those contract terms you guys have to tell. Legal people can draft it. Source the market. The market intelligence is very important. I know in the past we said, okay, now I made a relationship with one and that's what it remains for lifetime. Then we come appraise the supplier, invite the quotations, RFQs, RFP, whatever you guys do around, analyze it, negotiate, award, contract, identify them. So you can imagine around, this is a very traditional procurement process. I know many of you are still doing this. So the traditional part, I would say this is the time when the focus was ensuring delivery. If those who went to the procurement business schools in 80s and 90s, procurement and supply chain was always taught of 5 hours. That 5 hours are gone. It's getting outdated. I'll explain it later. So 5, right supplier, right this, they're good, but now things have changed quite a lot in that. Now, even in the 70s, this portal came around in the value chain. Procurement was only a support function. Yes, it is right. Because companies were vertically integrated, procurement was just a support function of 20% or 15%. That means procurement was not so important around. Procurement was not even looked as saving except negotiating 5% discount or 10% discount. That's a different story. Procurement was typically a support function. But today's world, if I see around, procurement is not a support function, procurement is a key function. If I'm working in a company like Apple, procurement is a key function. Everything is outsourced. There's hardly any make inside the company. 100% everything is outsourced around. What is important in the, if I think of an Apple company, the good design and sourcing, and outsourcing. So that is becoming the key thing around. So procurement has taken a key role. Even I look around many auto companies in India, I had a chance to visit them. So when I see them in the past and now, if I see the revenue is around $10 billion, $7 billion is spent through procurement. So when 70% you guys are controlling it, you can imagine if company CEO has to think of a saving, where does this guy look into it? Procurement. And even if you're in a company like IT and this, yesterday also we were having a discussion with one of the IT companies, big IT company, the stock market is going very high. So now they're also appreciating. I say you are teaching the whole world as a consultant, but your own procurement is very backdated. Since I did some work for them, I said, you are teaching the whole world in the Western world how to become procurement, while your own procurement in-house still backdated. So now it is becoming a support. It's not a support, it's a key function of it. Now coming back to again today's procurement. Tactical work is execution, execution, execution. And execution to me is more of a firefighting. In the evening when you're trying to leave, somebody calls you, what happened to my this around? Then you start reminding the supplier. So you're focusing 80% of your time, if you are in a technical world, is spent on either on procurement, little bit of strategy development, having few long-term agreements, but stakeholders, very negligible. So I was very happy when Saurabh brought all the stakeholders, at least inside stakeholders, into this team. One should not forget around, you cannot do anything alone. You have to carry your partners, your other cross-functional teams around as a part of it. If you're not together, you might be thinking of it changes, but others also have to join you. So when we are moving into the strategic part, I think this is very, very important to involve the stakeholders inside, outside. Suppliers are also your stakeholders. Top management is also your stakeholders. Your customers in-house are stakeholders. Your production people are stakeholders. So everybody is a stakeholders, keeping them into the concepts around. So in short, if I say, over the time, procurement and supply chain is becoming a cross-functional activity. If you're not becoming cross-functional and we are used to silo thinking that, oh, I can decide everything, no. So you have to go in a cross-functional way. You have to learn how to lead them. That's the way it comes. Now, this is a trend which is happening. If you go back to 90s, focus was price, price, price. I think it went well, I would say even up to 2000, because raw material prices were dropping. When the raw material prices were dropping, if I'm a manufacturer, I could afford to cut 10% every year. But if my raw material price is not going down, I'm a manufacturer, how can I give you 10% discount every year? So just controlling price was not possible. Then the concept came of cost management, and this came basically one step before strategic sourcing. People said, guys, I'm not looking at the price alone. I'm looking at the total package. Package to acquire it, package to manage it, package to pay other support activities around. So cost management was very important. So we moved from price. So from an infant stage, we went to the next stage of cost. Then we became really grown-up guys. And the moment grown-up means, we said, guys, if you are a grown-up in your field, you know how to stand on your own feet. You're not under the shadow of someone else. You can survive on your own. You became strategy. And the way I would say strategic sourcing means you have got two pillars. One is strategic sourcing team, who's thinking of a long term. And one is a tactical team, which is looking only this very short term. And tactical team is purely, I would say, reactive. So reactive approach in a tactical. And the tactical and transactional level, I would say, still the conventional wisdom works. Somebody will say, I've got so many years experience, this is how we did. The conventional wisdom was okay. But the moment we get into strategic sourcing, conventional wisdom does not work. You have to think of many new ideas around. And the scenarios is changing every time. So keep in mind that you're moving away from the conventional wisdom. You're moving into more strategic approach around. Your number of years experience does not become very important when you come to strategic. You have to be much more thoughtful about the spend and how to do it. Now from strategic sourcing, we are moving into the category management. This one is still new. I know in the retail business it is there, but in the other business, IT, indirect services, direct services, or direct procurement, indirect procurement, category management still has to find a way. I would say in India, still very small, few companies who are doing into real category. And now with the COVID-19, value is a growing business. So you can imagine around from a childhood when we were talking of price, we became a little kid, cost management. We became grown-up guys, stand on our own feet, strategic. Now we become more matured, category, and when we become more matured, value. So everybody says, guys, what value you're adding to our function? Okay, saving is important. I'm not questioning it. But what else you're doing? Are you helping us to improve the revenue? Are you helping us to improve our branding? So that's where the value comes. When I talk of value, there are two things. If I'm a customer, I have my needs and I have my wants also. My need is, okay, I need some laptop, mobile, whatever, just to do my job, just to call. But if I get extra features at the same price, I'm adding values. So that means value goes more, it's more of a wants, and the other one is purely need. The need is covered, tick, tick, tick. I've got 6 bullet points, all done. The needs is covered. But if somebody gives me with the needs plus some extra feature, let's say it's basically, I would say, it's a customer experience. Think of, there are companies like Amazon, there are others. One company says, guys, you call us, within 1 hour, delivery is made. Other one takes 2 days, you have to call them up, you have to remind them up. They do mess up in sending it. Where do you find the value? Value is here. The one who gives you delivery very quicker. So customer experience is a part of value management. So you're covering your wants, not just the need. That's how the trend is there. So when we talk about transition, we are looking from whatever level you are, whether in a transactional level, whether a strategic level, or a category management. So the last one, the way I can see today is digital, keeping in mind Procurement 4.0. Now this is where I will touch not too much into the strategic, because that we have covered earlier also, but the strategic sourcing and SRM. So this is where those people who say we have got strategic sourcing, my request to them is to assess, do they have a separate team for strategic sourcing? Whose job is to analyze the market, research the market, do my detailed spend analysis, make long-term agreements on repetitive items around, develop catalogs around. Then I've got a procurement operation team which does P2P, procure to pay. Now, if procure to pay is also become robotized, then that function is shrunk. The last but not the third pillar, depending on the size of your organization, as I said to you in the very beginning, one size for all doesn't work. Everybody doesn't have to have 3 pillars. If I've got only 2,000 suppliers, my strategic team will say, I'll take care of my vendor management, don't worry. So if you are in big numbers, 5 digits, then you say, vendor management needs a separate team. I want to manage their performance. I want to assure my risks are not there. The compliance is there. So in short, when I talk about strategic sourcing, very effective strategic sourcing, there are 3 pillars. Pillars might be combined together. Strategic sourcing, procurement operation, P2P, vendor. Now some people are doing it still with the help of spreadsheets around. They don't have e-tools. ERP does not address all this thing around. ERP will give you the process the way I showed you in the very beginning, simple, tactical, or transactional level. You need S to C. Then you need P2P. Supplier relationship management, again SRM or SPM goes into the vendor management. So I need those e-tools around. If you don't have, they're still behind. Now when the 1st October, Government of India has made very clear, Even big companies above 100 crores, I know many of you are about that. E-invoicing is compulsory. So once e-invoicing becomes compulsory, that means I can do from source to pay. So my interface with finance become negligible. So this is where the changes are happening around. Coming back to the category management approach, is again a collaborative approach, cross-functional approach, and the purpose is to add values. So it also counts, and if I were to say in a very simple way, if in an organization, if you have got a really good category managers, each category manager is a mini CEO. You are the mini CEO of each category. If you give me a category head, I'm looking at the profitability of my line. You are head of another category, you are looking as your own head. So in short, you have a good knowledge of finance, you are looking at the profitability, you're looking at the revenue part, you're looking at all strategies part. So keep in mind, category management is a one very good step around towards becoming a mini CEO of your own category. Now, this is where it shows sometimes the difference between strategic sourcing and category management. Look at the broad picture. If you are a category head, then you're also managing demand part. Strategic sourcing is a tool. So for those people who are moved to the category management, strategic sourcing is a tool for sourcing. Keep in mind, the word is sourcing. For sourcing purpose, you use strategic sourcing. But the last pillar is again supplier relationship management, supplier performance management. I've got KPIs also there. So this whole picture becomes my category. So in summarize, I would say strategic sourcing is a one part of category management, is a tool for sourcing. Another thing also of category management I want to talk around, I mean, this goes back to again Einstein time. Not Einstein time, I mean Newton time, with the apples falling around. So each branch is like a category. So each apple might be falling around, but if category is taken as a together, chances are there more apples will fall around. So we expect the category management should be integrated with your spend, in-depth analysis of spend, your supply markets, business requirement, 5 forces you all know very well, and then SWOT analysis around, risk assessment, stakeholder mapping, and cost calculation. When you're doing only strategic sourcing, these things are missing sometimes. But in a category head, when you are the category head, you are the mini CEOs, you are looking into all the 5 forces, you're looking at the SWOT analysis, you're looking at the risk part, and you're also looking at the resilience now, I would call, and stakeholder mapping and cost calculation. So when you look at the cost calculations, in the good old days, we never cared for it. So this is where I feel procurement people or supply chain people have been left behind. First thing is, they never looked into the costing side. Okay, you get say costs. Last year we paid this much, this year we'll pay 5% less, end of it. Doing the cost calculation, understanding it, understanding the innovative in the product in the market. So that's what we need. So I would say in some way, you have to learn the language of CFO also to convince the top management what role you are playing around. If you just say, I've ensured the delivery, I've taken a right product, right, this fine. But people at the top level, they're looking at around return on investment. What you are doing, what expense you are doing on the procurement, you want to add 3 more people, they will not give you because you're not able to justify. So you have to come with a justification. What is the cost of your procurement? What is the return of your procurement? Are you really a profit center or a cost center? So we need much more than that.
Sir, can we have the questions at the back or in between if we can?
Oh yeah, you can. I mean, if you want, I can finish the session, then you can have a few questions, not issue around. Maybe it is covered in the next slide, that's all.
All right.
Yeah, no worry. I mean, so strategy to, this one is obviously the mission is the very first part. Wherever I have gone as a consultant, I always go and ask them, guys, what is your procurement strategies around? They have the work roles. This is what we have to do. but strategy part is still missing. I think you can explore in your own mind, do you have a procurement strategy as a function? And strategy is never static, it is changing. Then if I go with a strategy, each team around, like 4 teams are here, sourcing is one part of it, tools. Demand management is another one. Managing supplier is very important. I know if I go in the 80s and 90s, suppliers were more like a doormats. They were just waiting. Oh, guys, the supplier has come. Let him wait. But now that concepts are changing. They are our partners. They are the one who bring innovative ideas to us. So contract management is also important. And during particularly COVID-19, people found the problem with force majeure clause even. So whether that clause is good enough or not. So managing the contract optimization. So this is the thing as a whole broad structure. So those of you who are moving from transactions to strategic. So first step is obviously strategic part to do the sourcing area. Strategic to me is more of a sourcing tool, e-sourcing tool. So once you learn that and you've got a separate pillar for strategic, separate for P2P, you reach the strategic level. Then the next step comes on the category side. Guys, I'm doing my own item. My friend is also doing his own strategic areas. And we are both buying from the same supplier. Why can't I put them together as a category? Have more leverage. So I move to this category heads around. Now here I want to explain you what lesson we have learned from COVID-19. This is true. It is done by McKinsey's around worldwide. So it's come from pharma to apparel. The people who are really affected are aerospace, furnitures, petroleum products, transportation. Least affected are pharma, medical device, food. Everybody needs a food. So this shows you the chain who are more affected, which are less affected. Impact is more, this is how it is there. So according to that, each one has to follow a different approach. The lesson what we have learned from this is that means we have to develop a strategic vision for the future. So that's important around. And disruption to the status quo has created a catalyst. Earlier we never bothered, oh, we are doing a good business, that's all. But now it has become a catalyst for change. I think any company you go around, everybody's talking of a change. And change is the truth now. And so that means it's become opportunity also. So good old thinking of business as usual is no. It has to change. That's what lesson COVID-19 has done. I think we all have changed in our own personal life, whether from work from home or even other ways around buying online. So our mindset has changed quite a lot. Something which we would have hated in the past 3 years back. Today we think, oh, it's part of the life. So keeping that in mind, industry also has to change. Now here I want to touch a little bit on resilience to withstand shocks and agile to respond. So resilience is, that's what we're looking around here with unknown. I remember 5 years, 6 years back, we developed risk management framework. Resilience, nobody talked about it. So risk is which is known to us. There's a probability of it. Probability could be 5%. I know if I live in a place where the flood comes maybe once in 5 years, I live in a place where tsunami comes once in 5, 6 years, they are risk. And I know the probability of them. But resilience is the one where I have not even, it's unknown. So the flood and earthquake could go into the risk part, but resilience is something totally unknown, uncharacterized. Probability, hardly anyone knows about it. So the risk part, I can have a probability and then accordingly take my management approach. Whether I should manage the risk, I should ignore the risk, I should bear the risk. But resilience is totally different. Now here comes those people who are moving from that stage to the normal stage. Keep in mind what will become normal now, soon you will have to go to the next normal. Whatever we were having some concepts, ideas, Now those ideas, now we were saying, oh, this is not good. But now we have adopted it during this crisis time. And that has become a normal. So three pillars are there around. I mean, you have to think of firefighting first in the last 2-3 months. Technically, when I look at the purchasing managers index around, manufacturing has touched 56.8. And anything more than 50 is good. So manufacturing is coming back. Services has still not crossed 50. It is, I was reading today's in the morning figure, 46.8 around. So still we are in the stage that we have to firefighting. We're short of cash, we're short of funds. So we are still working on the firefighting. And next 2 to 3 months, we'll have opportunity and risk management. So once we are standing on our own feet, then we are managing the risk, but soon we have to build resilience for the future. So that means we have to think of a new way of working. That's what we're doing. Immediate action, I'm sure you're all doing it already. Map your suppliers from all tiers. You might be having different tiers of suppliers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And each tier 1 supplier may have his own supply chain. So you might be falling with tier 1 supplier, and supplier is telling you something which is beyond their control because the raw material is not available. So that means you are stuck at the tier 3 level maybe. So you have to start identifying, not mapping up to tier 1, map up to tier 2, tier 3, depending on the complexity. Make a list of all the source items from these troubled suppliers. Engage your exposure to the impact. Even if you're not affected, I would say it is still a good lesson for us. Start developing all the key suppliers around which could affect your stoppage of your delivery to the customers. Look at what could be the potential risk around. Start looking at the alternate vendors. There are many new vendors which has come up around. Some might be startup companies. Some are very good companies, but they have innovative ideas. But once they come with innovative ideas, you could do it. Ensure not only screen the supplier for high-risk geographies, some geographies are high risk, but still you need to analyze all of them. Review the contract, keep it track. Okay guys, this is another one which I took from one of the companies, how they have managed it. First thing they were saying, guys, keep the light on, let the company start. And this is again from India, one company, we picked it up. Then they took the managing the rebound. Now guys, slowly we start rebounding. And then they said, okay, now we have to cut the cost base. Because in the rebound stage, I could not think of saving much. But now once I rebound to some extent, I can carry much more loan, little bit, but then I have to cut down my cost base. Cost base could be my staff restructuring, my sharing, again, you can say negotiating the best prices with the suppliers around, the repositioning the supply chain. So then the last coming as the phase 5 is risk management and decentralized. Now this word is coming up now. Earlier, I remember 8 months back or 1 year back, we were looking around centralizing procurement, at least the critical item. And uncritical item, the P2P, we were saying we can decentralize. And sourcing part, strategic part, we said we will centralize. All over the world, Western countries here, everybody I know. So all strategic part they were doing in the Western countries, P2P they were passing on to India to follow up around. But now, people say, guys, we can do as good as in a centralized place with the today's tools available. So again, people are thinking in a decentralized. People can run their offices in a decentralized way. So what stops us to run procurement also? So even strategic sourcing, which if you would have asked me 1 year back, do I have to centralize? Now I'm saying you have a choice. If your team is very well equipped, well trained around, and there's no risk of information being leaked out, you could do decentralized. So the model is changing again. The new normals, I know this globalizations, again, when I talk of my own business school, when I went in 80s around, we were all the time talked of globalization. And being in the UN, we were all the time talking of globalization. I'm not saying we are going against globalization, but we have to be careful. We cannot just saying, oh, it's a low cost, I go with that approach. So you have to think of somewhat nearshoring as well. Technology adoptions and consumer behavior has changed, you can see. And the new generation which is coming up from this, now even in the KG level and the grade 1 level, they're studying at home, online. You can imagine when they grow up, they will be totally digital. So in sense of that, there's a big societal impact. So that means our approaches have to be get ready for that. Another thing which is affecting our journey is procurement, Industry 4.0. Industry 1.0, when the steam engine came. Industry 2.0, when electricity came. Actually, if I combine supply chain, which is the mother of the whole procurement, the supply chain started from Industry 2.0. Although the terminology came in 1983, but supply chain started from Industry 2.0 when the Ford, earlier they used to assemble the cars and the cost was 10 times or 15 times. Then these people make 83 belt conveyors with the motors. So with the belt conveyors, so then whole start concept of supply chain started. So the philosophy started, except the terminology came in there. Industry 3.0, when I talk around 1969, 70s, 80s, mainframe was over, then people started talking of computerizing. Computerize activity, process around. If I've got X process, computerize it. This process, computerize it. Manufacturing also looked around. Earlier I was doing milling machine. Now I can do CNC machine, computerized numerical control machine. So many things came with computerization. So I think from 70s till now, computerization has been the way. But with Industry 4.0, where everything is connected, now the focus is on digitalization and automation. So Industry 3.0 was focusing on computerizing. Here I'm focusing on automation and digitalization. I'll explain the word digitalization and transformation. All the things words will clarify. Now that has started now. When we talk of Industry 4, digital era has started now, which might have been going slow in many developing countries, but now after COVID-19 and Industry 4.0, this has come much quicker and people are willing to accept it. But the only thing is it costs money. So you cannot jump into this quickly, because if you jump into this without doing your homework, it could cost a lot and it could be a big obstacle. So if you want to stand apart from your competitors, there's no way out. Transformation. So you can imagine around, for some people, the transformation could be from transactions to tactical. For some, it will be from tactical to strategic. For some, it will be strategic to category management. And for some, it will be the next level is digital. So you have to go through the process around. I know some people say, can I skip all of them and just jump into digital? I'll discuss in the last session because there are issues around that. So guys, this one leaves me here. Now, if any question before I come to the poll? Yes, anyone? I think somebody has questions around. So the need part, if anybody has any question on the need for transition.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
When it comes to the category management, can you please a little bit explain on the category management slide?
Okay, now let me give you in a very my common sense base. Strategic sourcing was, let me tell you, in 83, 84, when I was in Denmark, what we were doing around, I know that we are buying these items. Let's say we are buying computers, vehicles in a bulk. We were buying a lot in the year. We said, guy, why not we make an arrangement? It's a long, instead of buying one pieces, I did a volume leverage. But the volume consolidation was not a strategic sourcing. Some people think I'm doing volume consolidation, it is strategic sourcing. I would use the word strategic to some extent, but to me it is still tactical. But then from volume consolidation, somebody came up with the smart ideas. If until you sign an agreement with the supplier, my volume is so much, and I want to sign an agreement with you, and you've done the homework of sourcing, you've done the homework of assessing the supplier, You have done the homework of identifying supplier is okay geographically. There is no problem from government to government. Now you make an agreement, guy, we will buy from you. Now I agree with you, the prices could be fluctuating. Nothing is fixed because raw material price is changing. And we can link the prices with key parameters. I remember we were putting in Iraq one project on 3,000 kilometers of cable. The project was around $80 million. And copper alone was contributing 60% of the price. We said, guys, here is the price. Copper is 60%. Coating is plastic, which is 15-20%. We'll link with some exchange rate price, money rate around. I mean, we are London Metal Exchange. So exchange was, the rate was $2,000, let's say, per ton. If it becomes 1,800, my price will go down. If it goes more, it goes up. So we link with those. So we made arrangements around. Same thing we did with the oil also. When we had around so many vehicles in Afghanistan, so we were filling them up. Prices were going up, down, or below. So we made a strategic sourcing with key suppliers around. So that is what we call strategic. Strategic means you are just making long-term arrangements and then managing those performance of the supplier as well. Then there is a separate team whose job is to comply with that. I know sometimes they will not comply. I remember some of the country office will tell us, oh, Krishan, we can get much better price than what you had done in the long-term agreement. It could happen, an exceptional basis. So you guys have to think around, there's a compliance group, P2P. If they don't comply, then audit will check what is the purpose of strategic sourcing. Strategic sourcing should cover, I would say, 60 to 70% of your item. Then there are some items which are low values, low risk. You should be able to make catalogs. So I have seen with company like Accenture, because when we were doing some work with them, the oil company is based in X country or Y countries. Some of the maintenance items they buy on a regular basis. So they were coming back to them every time. They said, let me make a catalog for you guys. Procurement is not buying, then they allow the people who are users, who are your client, they can buy directly. So you're giving them an Amazon experience. So strategic means you're having Amazon experience for the low value item. For critical item, you're developing a long-term agreements. That's what we're doing. And procurement. Now we come to the category. Now strategic sourcing we were doing on item to item. I was dealing with pumps, somebody was dealing with computers, somebody was dealing with furniture, somebody dealing with. But if I categorize them into one group, that means I'm trying to think again, very basic thinking of procurement, consolidation at a category level. And at a category level, when I do consolidation, my leverage goes up. So if I am a category head of all electronic items, then I can use much better leverage around. I can plan my demand also very well. So that way chances are much more, it becomes much more strategic. The process of procurement is still e-sourcing, strategic sourcing, but then I do a much bigger job. Am I getting clear?
Yes, sir. This particularly, just on behalf of group, I wanted to ask this question. That's why I wanted to ask this. And to add up on this, when we talk about the category manager, I would say the category leader or whoever to be the particular thing. What is your recommendation, sir? It should be the category leader has to be from the buyer's team, or it can be from the discipline itself, actually, because what I feel is whenever there is an interface between the discipline and the buyer, as a mindset of the company, the category leader has to be in the buyer's team only. Yeah. But what is your recommendation, sir?
I mean, so far, wherever the best practice we have seen, I mean, I can give you a real example of one of the big companies, which is number one in India. And now what they have problems around, firstly, there were the production people, maintenance people, and then we have production people. And they know very well, they understand each other's, but each one have a different objective around. If I'm in production, maintenance, my performance at the end of the year is looked into different parameters. My performance is looked, my production should not stop. Your interest in the procurement is to think of creativity, bring new items, cut the cost, but if I give you a simple example in one way, I'm sure since you are also coming from petrol, so you know very well. One company, I told them, guy, you bought 30 years back Ambassador car and you want same engines, same pump. And today I can get you much smarter engine, better pump with a better life, but you still want same because it fits very well. So that mindset, they're not stupid people, but their mindset, I mean, their objectives are different, your objectives are different. Here we focus them, I'm still working with them on that project to make a cross-functional team. So this is where I'm very happy that you guys are working in that team. So make a cross-functional team. Now question is, who will lead it? To me, the leader should be the one who is knowledgeable, end of it. And it is very difficult to, I mean, traditionally, if I go with the traditional approach, you'll see procurement guy. But whosoever is a leader, but then the team as a whole should be accountable. If I'm a leader coming from production, I'm a leader coming from quality control, I've got my other parameter, others hat also. Now you're giving me this extra hat of a leader, and I'm not able to spend time on this. My future growth is on the other parameter. I won't do justice on it. That's a way around. So this is why we told them, guys, let it be from procurement and supply chain. Until you feel that you don't have the right leader for this category, take from others. But then the management has to support that this guy would be accountable. Not that this guy is an outsider type, becomes a leader without any accountability, then is a risky part. So that way we have to keep together. And I think what we are doing around, I was putting up the performance indicator for the production guys. 20% I was linking with procurement. Another guy was linking 30% with procurement to make a cross-functional team. I know it's very difficult because we Indians, we are used to pyramid approach. Ki my boss is this, that's all. My performance, my future is here. So my loyalty is here. But now we are thinking of a cross-functional, that mindset is to change around. I think I'll touch on this part a little later, but I'll do it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, guys, I've got some poll.
Sorry, I have one question. What if I say, what is the difference between category management and commodity management?
Okay, they are very close by. You will have a very good background. If I'm dealing with X commodity, what of a category? Let me tell you in a very simple term. So commodity people who are dealing with raw materials, this, that, natural products around. That's what I call commodity. But, and same thing when I come to the manufacturing world, other words around, then I call them as a category. Nothing more than that. So to me, it is same thing, depending on which company, which sector you are. More or less similar. Okay, guys, keeping in mind, so I just thought I'll just go through the poll questions around quickly. So it gives us a good flavor. I think my colleague Ria has already uploaded all the 5 poll questions. So I just want to get an input on that. Where do we stand? So everybody get a feel of it.
This is in our organization, considering of our organization, we have to answer, right, sir?
Okay, no worry. Yes, I'm talking of the organization. Your personal has nothing to do with that. Okay, some of you have already replied. Are you able to see, guys? Poll questions, all the 5?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So nothing is right and wrong, just think what is practical, which is true for you guys. Okay, I can see the very first questions. Okay, Okay, now I think it looks like most of you have replied. So let me start with the very first one. Percentage of spend of the total spend. About 70% is only 14%. That means only very few companies are really controlling the whole purse of the organization. 50 to 70% is 57%. So if I take anyone above 50%, 63 plus 13 means you are really close to quite a big number, 76% together. Less than 50% is 22%. I can understand those companies which are really a support functions, indirect procurements around, maybe less. But otherwise, majority of you, I would say they are falling into this group. So that shows the importance of your function. Which of the following statement does not apply to tactical? Now, I think some of you said it does not apply. It calls for short-term plan. I think it applies. That's what differentiates tactical. Tactical mean is a short-term. Tactical mean is a reactive. You only wake up when somebody makes a hammer on you guys. What happened to this product around? It uses a long-term. No. Long-term is typically for strategy. Long-term mean I'm looking at more than 6 months. Strategic means within a year, week, 10 days, that's all. Okay, then guys, we go to the next ones, which are the following statement does not apply to strategic, so it's a reverse. So it is not a proactive, yes, very correct. It has a long range plan, very right. It empowers it. It's about sourcing. Now sourcing, I won't say much because sourcing I do everywhere. Even transaction also I do sourcing, everywhere I do sourcing. So these two things are very important around. Let's get down to the category management. Category management is same as strategic sourcing. No, majority of you said no, it's very right. It's the next level. I know category management uses strategic sourcing as a tool for sourcing, but it is not same. So I think it will be underestimation. It's the next level of graduation. You're graduating from strategic to category management. As I said to you, you're becoming mini CEO. You're the most important person. So majority of you said very rightly. The next lesson is what we have learned from COVID-19. I think majority of you have said we need to improve resilience. I think two things you have said around very rightly around agile, resilience. Also, I would say cost effectiveness. We cannot avoid it because now we are more short of funds. To talk to any companies around, they are short of funds. So that means that part still remains. So all three are very important. But in general, we hear about that we have to become resilient, we have to become agile. You're very right. Okay, guys, with this, let me now move to the next ones. Okay, session 2. Here we're going to talk about assessing your maturity of the procurement function. I don't know how many of you have done your own maturity part. Yeah, this was sent, no? Yes. Maturity. I hope you got all the links. Maybe it was too late in the night time, but you got the maturity link. If you had a chance to do it, maybe then when question answer come, I'd like to know. So the maturity is a wonderful tool, very simple tool which we have sent you. And this is the one we tried with one of the big IT company in India. But there it was done based on interviews. Here we are developed into a question, basically psychometric test. It's a very quick test around identifying gaps. I can't do a roadmap until I know the gaps. Gaps on the organization side. My organization culture is very backdated. I can't do it. Competency is okay, important around. I can have all the smartest people in my office, but my organization culture is very backdated. So that maturity is very important to me. Competence is also important to me. Now, when I think of a transformation, what are the key levers of transformation? Now, I'll touch with you the key levers of transformation from up to the category management level. But then when we get into the digital world, it has got little different levers of transformation. So I'll touch on both. So develop transformation roadmap. So all of you have to develop transformation roadmap. Now, this is where it's going to be the assignment for you guys once we finish all this. As we said in the beginning, we'll have certificate of participation. And those who want successful completion certificate, they will have to develop a little bit roadmap. Don't have to do a big research project. What type of roadmap you are looking at in your organization and approach around. Okay, guys, so when we talk about tomorrow's procurement, we need speed, transparency, and quickness. So now we are focusing a lot on the speed, transparency, and quickness to take decisions. I have seen companies from requisition to make POs, it takes 40 to 50 days. I won't call them strategic companies. Neither even tactical, I would say they are more transactional type. I've come across companies, the very first thing I see in any company when I go around, two things. As I said to you very beginning, one is the strategy of procurement, structure of the department, and third thing we look around is, have they changed the procedures in the last 5 days, years, or 10 years? Some people are still going on with the old procedure for the last 10 years. The world has changed, you and me have changed. How can the process remains 10 years old? The process also has to change. So the mindset has to be changed. Now here what comes tomorrow means tactical will remain. I'm not questioning it. After all, everything can't be streamlined to zero level because the demand is fluctuating so much. So tactical level is 20% of the time. Maybe over the time it may become 10%. But 80% is time spent on strategy and stakeholder. So that means if I've got 100 procurement people or supply chain people, 80 people are working on strategic function and 20 people are working on tactical level. And if I go 15, 20 years back, it was 80 people working on tactical level and only 20 people working or even 10% working on strategic thing. So the whole trend has to change.
Sir, this is
yes.
Sorry to stop you. So,
no, welcome. Go ahead.
So what I hear is, if you have to move from tactical to a strategy, I mean, the most of the process improvement and automation or RPAs have to be implemented on a tactical level so that the same people have free time to work more on strategy or improve their skill more on the strategic level, and more whatever can be automated.
Excellent. Yeah, that's correct.
So because many people, when we talk about automation, have the thing that, oh, if this become automation, what I will do? How do we tell them that, boss, once your day-to-day mundane jobs become automated, you work more on strategy. That is where the real value, what you bring to an organization.
Okay, so I'll put it this way, because we are working for one company, I can quote you that example later. But what we did around, we found that when we brought RP in one activity, not in all the activity, only one activity as an experiment we did, and we found 3 people became redundant. We told them, guys, don't worry, your job become more important now. So we took them into analytic group around. So we created an analytic group of 10 people supporting the strategic team, and then these people were trained on the data analytics around. So you are very right. So once we bring new tools, new technologies, then the people who become redundant, you may call around, they are put into much more valuable function. That's the way it is there.
Yeah.
Good. So one should not get scared of these tools around. It's a part of the life. It has to go. Okay, guys, this is where I want everybody to be worried around that procurement should not be a firefighting. If you feel at the end of the day, you can't plan your holidays, you can't go in the evening home, and if it happens once, twice, I can understand. But if it's everyday fighting, then there is certainly a problem in the organization. The leader has to play a key role into this. If you find, if I go to the office, I plan today in the morning, I'll do this, and at the end of the day, I find I didn't do anything what I had planned. I'm doing something different. That means I can't plan. I'm only on a firefighting work. So the day firefighting becomes over dominant on your routine, on your planned things, so you will never grow further. You will be always struggling with the firefighting. So this, I would say, request to all of you. If you feel there is too much of firefighting and you're not able to structure the work, what you want to do, then please look back. Take a asana type, sit outside, think it over. What is going wrong? Why it is happening? Think of a change. Sometimes I know there may be shortage of staff. So think about sourcing some activities around, whichever way you want. But people should get at least 60-70% of their work time as they want to finish what they want to do well. Okay guys, the next one, now we are moving into strategic world. And strategic world means everything is about strategy. The very first thing I told you about the business strategy. Everybody should know what is the business strategy of the organization. The business unit, the function, the team, and procurement strategies. Your matrix also will change. And then category, if you are head of a category, what strategy you are putting around in terms of KPIs and the goals around. So it should not be. So you have to move from the business to procurement, procurement to category. Since you are one lever of the procurement, you have to have your own category step. This is the one very good thing I would call around is you're moving from the one I was telling you 5 R's. You can see the very first one on the value chain, supply assurance. This used to be the focus, those who went to this profession, when this profession was not likable by well-qualified people, let me be honest. 70s, 80s, who would like to go with this? This was meant for people who came from finance, people came redundant from any other function, put them into procurement. So supply assurance was the focus. And the role was also called as planner or a buyer. And your job was to ensure right goods at right time and right place. 3 R's. Then we came a little further, guys. Assuring supply is one thing. I had to cut the cost to cover my cost. Because my office thinks that I'm a burden to them. I have to save some money. I become a negotiator. So then I say right goods, services, and at the right price. All 5 R's are covered up to this. Now, after that 5 R's are gone. And those of you who have gone above this maturity level, those who are still struggling at the assurance and this, then they are certainly, I would say, they're living with 5 R's, which if you look at the old books of procurement, going back in 80s or 70s, 5 R's. Now they have become outdated to me. Now we are becoming operationally excellent. We understand the total cost of ownership. It is not one cost. I'm looking at the maintenance cost. I'm looking at the repair cost. I'm looking at my logistic cost. I'm looking at the disposal cost. I'm becoming a little operationally smarter. I'm supply expert. I'm the team leader. So my role is becoming on the value chain up. The next value chain comes even on the demand side. When I'm a category head, my own demand planning, I'm doing it. I'm creating more demand. And the last but not the least on the chain is I'm trying to bring innovative products around. If 70% of the auto companies are coming from OEMs, or even if any oil company or any other companies around, I'm buying components or spare parts or even maintenance items which are much more productive than today's in terms of reliability, then certainly I'm cutting down the maintenance downtime. I'm improving the production. So you should not be only focusing on cost saving and cost avoidance. You should be also looking from bottom down. The bottom I can improve upon, but the top also I have to improve upon, the revenue part also. So that means you should have a say in the management. Guys, we have changed the revenue also because of our activities. I mean, one typical example, somebody came with the headlamps, which were earlier using a lot of energy for the batteries. Then they came with incandescents. Then they came with the other lamps, more important. So energy consumption was cut down. The battery life improved around. So who gets the credit? Procurement people get the credit because they brought the supply. They brought the ideas around. So that's the way. Now, when we are getting into this type of value chain, your metrics have to change. I can say, please look back on this. All of you are looking at your metrics of performance of each one, either on the negotiation, how much saving you brought, how much leverage you did around, how much competitive you did around from the compliance angle, from the audit angle, rationalizing the supply base. Then the next come on the cost avoidance part. How much is we are putting on the cost avoidance as a matrix? Up to the first two, I can see many companies are doing, with my experience in India a lot. Then the risk and the working capital reduction. Risk is very important. Capital reduction also. If I'm buying more item inventories because my price is cheaper, because when I buy in a bulk, but my work in progress goes up, my inventory level goes up. So that's a cost there also. So you have to see in a bigger picture. And the last is revenue enablement. Now this one, I would love to hear from any one of you has got in the performance criteria, KPIs, revenue enablement. How are you helping the organization to improve the revenue? So that has to become at least one of the metrics in the same. Let people start thinking in that direction. It is not just buying of goods and services. So this should also add up into your matrix around if you're moving in the world of transformation. And the sorry, anyone?
One second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Very, very important point, sir, you put together is how you are basically helping your organization to build up more revenue.
Yeah.
The kind of business we are in, like we make engineer to order products for the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
The only leadership that our customers are looking from our industry or our type is cost leadership. They're not looking at any other value factors other than the cost. So if supply chain is able to bring material at lower cost, doesn't it help us to be more competitive and therefore increase our chances of
yeah, go ahead.
More orders from the market? But the whole point is, how do we build a matrix around it and demonstrate it?
Saurabh, I think you touched a very good point. Cost reduction, cost avoidance, cost saving, all also part of the value, and indirectly. Because once you're cutting down the cost, at the end of the day, you are able to deliver to the supplier at a very competitive price. So when it's a competitive price, your revenue also goes up. But then you have to correlate that way also. How many procurement people are correlating that? They only say our saving is so much. And the top management, when you tell them the saving is so much, they will listen from one ear and they'll say, okay, but thank you. But if you tell them, guys, because of this, your production has gone up, your revenue has gone up, that type of linkage is required. Now that has to come.
Because in this market, having more jobs also helps us build a lot of contribution. That means the more time my production workshop is running, the more fixed cost I'm able to kind of elevate out of, especially in this market where the demand is up and down. So at the back of the mind, most of the, when you look at the CX levels, they realize that point, but openly they would not want to appreciate that. Yes, because of so much of building up cost competitiveness, we are able to do that. My challenge was, sir, if you have any idea, yes, we are saving money. Cost saving is one metric, but how do we convert this metric into a revenue enablement metric? Any idea or any guideline that would really help us put things in place and in perspective?
Okay, now I can give you one example because I'm talking from your industry angle. So this was a real example around in a Reliance around. So what we did was they were having one pump, outdated technologies, 25 years. And every month they have to download it, keep it clean, maintain everything around. And this was made of old type, basically casting type. And then there was a lot of chemical, which sulfur, that used to affect it, and the life was very less. So every month it needs a maintenance. Life was only 2 years or 3 years around. Then, in the help of them, I won't underestimate them. Then, along with the help of procurement people who had a good relationship, they found some equivalent product around, which was copper coated, so it was not affected by sulfur. It has a longer life. So the life became from 3 years to 10 years and downtime was less. So in short, what you were saying also, if I'm able to do my production run out of 24 hours, only 22, 23, now I can do 24/7 easily. So that means my revenue has gone up. So linking that type of parameters we did to justify this change around. So I think sometimes I know procurement people are very modest, nothing wrong in being humble. But then you have to convert them, guys. I've done this, but this is how it is affecting you.
Okay, so basically we have to meet move from being modest to more assertive of what kind of work we do and how do we really help the organization?
Nothing comes automatically in the pocket. You have to sell. This is where I've seen marketing people do little but thing, but they make a big noise. Everybody listens them. Procurement people work so hard. I have moved from production for design to production in my career. Then I moved into the other line. Then when I came to the supply chain but then I see that these are the people who speak very less. They're very hardworking people, very committed people, but they don't say that, guys, what change you have brought. So that part I would say, I think we need to train our people in procurement supply chain to become a good communicator. Even if you ask a procurement guy, can you write one page? Many of the procurement people are very smart in making purchase orders, negotiating it, but they can't write 2 pages report on it. What change they have brought. I think that skill is to be improved, the soft skill.
Noted, sir.
Krishanji,
Yeah.
I think the point which you made is actually very good because there is indirect and direct revenue enablement. And the issue which you brought up as an example was an indirect revenue enablement. And when people from procurement look at stuff, they need to look at both aspects because most people, when you say revenue enablement, their thought process goes to the direct revenue enablement. In this case, it was an indirect, and which is very important point to bring up.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, to add upon that, yes, when we talk about strategy, I think strategy, as we started this session, it's not only procurement, the strategy thinking has to be there across all the cross-functional team, especially the leaders in the cross-functional team.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, guys, then this is the one, another thing also, organization. I don't know how many have changed it. I know when some of the people who have been for many years, they still come from the pyramids approach around. Pyramid means from top to bottom. If I'm at the lowest level, I'll report to the next assistant manager to senior manager, senior manager, and then blah, blah. If any good ideas you have, it goes through many layers and you lose the interest of it. So I feel we have to get, after particularly COVID-19, and now when Industry 4.0, we're moving into digital world, the structure has to change. So structure has to become networked. You might be having a different salary structure, different level, no issues. But each one has a different role, but still connected together through a different approach. So that approach will bring speed in the improvements and people will feel more motivated. Some people are seen nowadays when they come fresh from colleges around, they come from very good colleges and they're given the lowest rung. They're given a good package, but they feel ideas which they have doesn't reach the top. Nobody involves them in the meeting because their level is very low. So that I think discourages them. Some people, damn smart people, but they get discouraged. I think time has come to think a little bit different way. So these approaches are very good when companies have a set line, set production system, one set approach, and change cannot happen overnight. Yes, but now change can happen anytime. Particularly when I've got outsourcing of 80%, 90%. If working in a company like Apple, where 80%, 100% is outsourced, my structure will be like this. I can't have that pyramid approach. So you have to think of it, if your majority has been outsourced around, very less is done in-house, only 10% you're doing assembly, then I would say look into this structure part. But if you are doing mostly in-house, only 20% is procurement, then you will stay with the pyramid approach. So please look into this also when you're thinking of transformation. This is the one I know this relates to basically India, those who are based outside, they may also like to see purchasing manager index, very important around. It was started by ISM USA, which is the oldest in the world. So ISM USA started around, ki guys, procurement plays a key role. Like at a home, more you spend, that means you are earning well. If your spend is less, you are not. It's but natural process around. So any company, when they spend more, that means they're doing well. So procurement becomes an index for growth or fall. So if procurement is one, then there are other parameters. So looks like on manufacturing, we have really come back very well. But on the services side, we are still in September figure has come now. Yesterday it came up 46.8. So we are still less than 50. But we have to cover a lot. Now coming back to the procurement landscape around, we are all maturing every year. That part is very clear. And now in the last 6 months, everyone else, you have changed their mindset. And everybody has become to some extent digital now. I'm sure even your own house, you'll find everybody is digital now. So that's the way it is there around. So procurement, are you treated as a true partner around? Still we are stuck with the old perception of the past. They still feel that this is my budget, you are only procuring for me. That thinking is there around. And the budget which is done by the department, your customers, they don't share with you once in a year, once, at least a year back. Suppose if I'm head of a production or head of anything, I have my budget based on my demand. Now that should be shared with procurement people also. But that is not shared. I think that role has to change. So the leaders of this function has to play a key role to convince the top management that guys, we have to work as a team. So procurement has to become a true partner. And again, lastly, but not the least, I would say digitalization of procurement promises to create an interconnected ecosystem. Now, this one I've kept in the last session around because everybody's talking about ecosystem. Now, ecosystem in your existing technology, which you have, ERP, has a limitation. I'll come to that later. ERP is a wonderful thing. I was involved in 2005 when we were implementing worldwide. On the procurement side, on the supply chain and inventory management side, I was leading that part. I think supplier also are my ecosystem. So we have to connect them. How do we connect? ERP does not allow you. Does ERP really supports my procurement? So I think that's the biggest limitation. I'll come back a little later on that. Let's understand the pyramid of whole transformation. One is digitization. Second is digitalization. And third is digital transformation. Digitization was the one which I said to you in 1969, 70s when Industry 4.0 came. We were trying to digitize. So basically I had old hard copies and I'll put 3 people on the job, guys, go on scanning and storing it. So basically I'm computerizing my activities. I'm converting my analog data to digital data, but I'm not digitalized. If any one of you are still working that way, like if I'm sending a hard copy of invoice, somebody will scan it, upload on the ERP will do 3-way matching around. It's the lowest level of digitization. It's a digitization. But digitalization, which Government of India has now made it very compulsory, I can send my invoice online to any suppliers. Some suppliers, companies are doing already. Many big companies, last 2 years, they have started around. I can send my invoice system. If I have got robotic process automation, they will match my invoice with purchase order and this and goes. Finance is not even involved in that. So digitalization means the process itself is digital. Like today, you're getting all the offers around on email. Still not digitalized. Digitalized means it is coming on your platform. Evaluation is done on the platform. If I have got RPA, it can do my evaluation there itself. It can give you some recommendation. You may follow or not. At the end of the day, you are the decision maker. So then digital transformation. I might have done one activity is digitalized. Other activity is still to be done. Contract management has been done. Or my P2P has been done. But other activities are not done. That means digital transformation has not happened. Transformation happened when all activity in the functions are digitalized. So this is where it gives you digitization, digitalization, and transformation. That means the data conversion is digitization. Process itself is digitalized, as I said to you about invoicing. And then the date from there, I might have done one activities, let's say P2P as digitalized, contract management digitalized, but then other activities are not done in the whole function. So whole business, if you want to be digitalized, including the payment, then it is a transformation. That's what we call transformation. Now coming back to maturity level, which each one of you got the maturity level access yesterday. If someone has not got, let me know. The RIA can send you again. And this is the one is a real case which we had done with one big companies in IT. I mean, that time we did it with the help of interviews, but here is a psychometric test. It covers your organization structure. So depending on your answer, the type of people, tools, what technology you have, the policy part, your customers, and your suppliers also. If your stakeholders are not very digitized, they are not very, so they're sending you hard copies around or something, performance part, governance part. Governance is very important now. The governance looks into your transparency, governance looks into the control part, all those things are now. So all these factors, depending on how you answer those questions around, which are psychometric questions, and then the outcome will come as a score. Score will come either 5 out of 5 means you're the best, or 4 out of 5, or 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5, 1 out of 5, or it could be 3.5 out of 5. So that's what it gives your maturity level. And broadly, I can say what we are seeing the data, even the best companies, 3.5, 3.6. One company came with a 4, but the rest are all in the 3s, and some were with a 2 also. So this gives you some idea about the maturity level and where do you want to go. This is another one which we are still trying to put it on the system, digital maturity. That maturity was up to the category management level around, strategic level you could say. But now this is a new concept we are working on. Or digitally you matured enough or not? Are you at the level 1? Are you level 5? So digitally also we are now trying to add this. Is a new concept which has come after COVID-19 and Industry 4.0. So soon we'll be ready with this. So we'll be able to help the company to assess what maturity level you are in terms of process, in terms of technologies, in terms of connectivity, data maturity, analytics, AI. So these things, AI and all this, you won't find in the questions there. Now we are going to add these questions into that data maturity, connectivity, all will be included into the previous maturity level. And then based on the maturity answers, we can give you where do you stand. And then we can say this is the benchmark and where you stand, where is the gap, and then based on the gap, we can do the transformation map. Now let me clarify you, when we say level 1, very initial stage, performing accessibility activities ad hoc basis, again reactive function, repeatable things. Then we come to the define, that means you have developed some standards, you have a documented procedure, SOPs, you have a strategic sourcing around, so you are becoming level 3. 4 means you're really doing at the performance level. If I want to know the performance, it can come on my dashboard, each and every supplier, who is failing, who's not failing, that has to come. Like an eye here, I should be able to see in the morning when I come, if I'm the head of the function, I should know which are the ones who are failing in performance part. And if they're very critical item, then we have to take an action. And optimizing. So you will see in this one, not much on digitization is there around in the maturity level. So now we are going to improve this to add digital level as well. This is another approach for your strategic and category approach around. So this one, I'm sure all of you are very conversant in Kraljic supply matrix. So Peter Kraljic was a consultant, initially with McKinsey, then he joined with Harvard, and he came up with this Kraljic supply. He says, people are doing procurement based on only price. They don't look at the risk part. Some items are very risky for you. The cost may be very less, but the impact is very high. And this happened with one of the company with Boeing. The nuts and bolts which are used to connect the wings with the body, it may be a very low value item, but the risk is big. If the bolts and nuts are not there, planes cannot go out of the assembly line. So we divide the whole thing into 4. Now I will say each one of you should have this division of spend into 4 boxes, a 2 by 2 matrix. So you should have non-critical items, low value items, low profit impact mean low values, and low risk around. Low risk means I've got more choices around. If I've got choices, my risk is very low. So that's what I will do around. The leverage item means where I got my choices quite a lot. Competitive, competitive, competition. I've got choices. But then I've got no choices in strategic item. Today I have no choice, tomorrow it may be. I'm not saying that. Tomorrow if I change the design, it becomes a leverage. It's a high value item, high risk item. Same way bottleneck item is high risk around but low values. They're like the nuts and bolts I was telling you the Boeing. So you need continuing. So you need a catalog approach. If I'm a strategic head, I will convert all the item in this non-critical item into, yeah. And the other one, strategic item, I'll make a long-term arrangement, and then I will build e-auction into competitive bidding. Saurabh, you have anything on this before I go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, when we are talking about supply risk, now
Yeah.
Dr. Kraljic kind of was speaking only with terms of how many suppliers are there in the market, kind of a balance of power between the,
Yeah.
if there are more suppliers, then your supply risk is less.
Very
But
right.
what you are telling is we should not only look supply risk from how many suppliers are available, but we should also know that what kind of risk a particular product or a category can have an impact on your product in terms of profitability, timely delivery, and also performance.
You're very right. The two is again is a maturity level. Some people who are starting first time. So for them, we always tell them go with the number of suppliers. Then those who have matured already, then we have 2 or 3 parameters around. One is the number of suppliers, which I may give 70% weightage. Another parameter would be geographically from where they are coming around. If tomorrow the problems could happen there, there's a tsunami country, this country, suppliers are many. But if they're all coming from those areas which are risk prone, then I'll give another weightage parameters around. Third could be that the shipping or something else issues could happen around. So it depends on the maturity level. But to those who are doing starting with it, then I go with the numbers. But later on, this could be matured with 2 or 3 parameters to develop the risk. Similarly, profit impact. The profit impact, initially I will go with number of spend, basically spend, nothing more.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the maturity I see around spend is important, but sometimes the spend may be less, but its impact is very high on the delivery part, revenue part. So then it slowly matures around. But to begin with, I'll go with the spend here on the x-axis. Y-axis, I'll go with the number of suppliers. But you can improve upon it, not an issue.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
That's why I said in the very beginning, one size for all does not work. Some are on the very high level of maturity. Some are at the low level of maturity. Each one has to improve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, sir.
Go ahead. Yes, Ranga.
Yeah, the point of discussion actually. So as part of the work, me and Saurav had a very detailed study also on this. When it comes to the strategic sourcing, where we, after going through various literature, what we realized is Kraljic, there is some criticism on the Kraljic matrix also because it is been done in 1983 and it is still basic thing. But when it comes to the strategic level, the more emphasis on the buyer-supplier relationship actually. So this matrix has to be not only on profit and profit impact and supplier risk. There should be an approach has to be there. I would say the next thing level is Cox, who came up with the model where there should be analysis has to be done for the category positioning based on buyer-supplier relationship actually. So since you have coming up with the Kraljic model for the discussion, so when it comes to the strategic level, what we are thinking, what is your recommended method, sir, actually?
I mean, obviously, this is a very basic starting point. Let me make it very clear. So basic starting point, you say, guys, this is an item is strategy. Or this category is a strategy, depending on your category approach or you're looking at a strategic level. If you're looking at a category manager, then you say, this category is very strategic to me. Then you will say, guys, what type of relationship I need. Now that category is okay, but then the relationship is Some are easy to maintain, some are not easy to maintain, then you may think of a different approach around. So that
got your point. Now we tried to do that, and we got into those kind of when we put spend on one side, and we identified those categories which were exceptionally high in our spend.
Yeah.
Also, the suppliers were more. But when because that analysis only used to take my company into the perspective that how I am perceiving this particular category.
Okay.
When we look at the market, although my spend is exceptionally high in this category, but as far as the global market, or the basically restrictive market, our spend is very less. So as per, if we map it, we might map a particular category in the leverage. For us, it's leverage, but for suppliers, we might not be able to implement a strategy because actually our suppliers are not considering our volume so big to be able to give the advantage that which we are seeking.
I think, Saurabh, you touched very point. You are not the customer of choice for them. You might be thinking it is a high value item for me. I have choices. I can put into the leverage, but then still they will not come and join your e-auction around because you are not attractive to them. Your volume may be only 0.1% of their whole business. It's like, I don't waste your time with this company. So in that case, you have to think in a different way. I agree with you. So that's the third dimension you have to look around. How big is your business? You might be thinking I'm a leverage item, but they don't think you. Supplier perception is equally important around. So I think in all these boxes around is very good, but this should be supplemented by how supplier perceives you as a customer.
Because globally, most of the people, when they are looking at now when basically the market opened up, a lot of categories which most of the people thought were leverage items, when the market size increases, it moved from leverage to strategic items, because most of the suppliers also were able to sell globally.
I appreciate. I think I agreed around. But this is where possibly required around, if you have people in the same sectors, they can join together and make a deal together. I mean, this was done in the US with auto companies around.
Yeah, basically consortium of buyers, but for that, your industry has to be matured enough to not take your competitor as your.
Certainly, I'm not agreeing with you. These are all if and buts, but certainly you're right. One cannot take it on the face of it. So I would say it's a leverage. It's not customer accept liking for you. And then if I want to do consortium approach, maturity has to be there. Like auto, there's a lot of maturity around. They work together.
The one caveat I would say on that consortium of buying, I can tell you from the perspective in the US where hospitals, purchasing for hospitals is being done through a consortium. You actually stifle innovation. So when you have somebody who's coming in with a new way of doing stuff, a new tool, which is at a lower cost, if you're not wanting to kind of break your relationship with certain suppliers, you will continue to have that old way of doing stuff. And I know of a specific example of a person who came in with a more innovative mask for doctors to use. But unfortunately, they had long-term relationship with other things, and they didn't bring this person in. And this person got nixed out, and she actually, it's a woman, had to go looking at private hospitals who are not connected to this consortium to start selling the product. So one needs to be actually balancing when you're talking about creating a consortium. One needs to balance the need for innovation, because ultimately innovation helps us all by not only producing a product at a lower price, but also need to look at how do you manage your other relationship, because the entrenched suppliers were not willing to change their ways. So that was one caveat I just want to make everybody aware of.
Bhaskar, I think you touched a very good point. I mean, I also had similar example. We had a guy who came from Kerala. He fresh from college as MBA. He did his medical MBBS. And he said, guys, I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a supply chain guy. And this is a story, I would say 6 years back, he met me. He said, I love supply chain. He used to write a magazine called Doc and Doc, DOC and Doc, very popular magazine. And he started when he was studying in second year of medical college. He built relationship. He came back, and being a doctor, He came into the consortium buying, and he did, to begin with, 5 or 6 big hospitals of Mumbai. He started in Gurgaon first, was not a failure, was a failure I would call. Then he went down there, he made a big success. As a doctor, he was able to rap well. He was to help the supplier to improve the productivity quality around. He was able to do good words around in terms of innovations. So that way he was able to succeed. So today in 6 years, he's doing business of around 100 crores. So I agree with you, sometime innovative approach, ideas, how you wrap it up, consortium approach, I think it works well. Well, friend, I'm not taking much time on this. Let me go further. Evolution is going from strategic. Even in strategic procurement, you might be still working on ERP. So you are still doing ERP, mean you are procurement 2.0, let me call you. E-procurement is the next step when you really go e-auctions, e-tenders, e-catalogs. Then you become procurement 3. And procurement 4.0 becomes when you are totally digital. So I'll move later on this subject. So that's what it gives you. Now the today's and tomorrow evolution is happening around. We want real-time connections. We don't want to go with the layers around. We want to digitize the collaboration part. Look at the way WhatsApp has digitalized us. We are able to collaborate with the press of a button with many people around. Or even in this training program, we are able to connect with all of you as good as sitting face to face. So automatic simulations, which is becoming very important. In the good old days, we used to prepare a note for the management. If this happened, what I will do. If this happened, what happened. Here I now do a simulation. Simulation gives me the report and I pass on to the management. And management has got a bigger faith on that because it's been automatically simulated around. Earlier, I used to do the studies like a research project. If this would happen, now the next. So these changes are happening and which is bound to increase. Now here I wanted to link you this. Those of you who are still working procurement based on MRP, they are procurement 1.0, I'll call them. Then those who have jumped to ERP, ERP is a wonderful tool. Don't underestimate me, just to connect the organization. But for procurement people, it's still not the great thing. I think Bhaskar was heading on the technology side when he was with the UND. ERP brought many datas around, but to analyze the data, we had to go to the IT people. They had to hire someone. They had to analyze them. It is not very user-friendly. They will never say no, but it's not very user-friendly for procurement people. So if you want to really make a use of it, then we have to go to e-procurement. Beautiful apps around, and those apps can be uploaded on ERP or you can do it on the clouds. But that's the advantage of e-procurement. Information is available to you at the press of a button. And then once you have implemented e-procurement, I would say you are procurement 3.0. And procurement 4.0 mean when you say I'm a smart procurement, the word smart means you are having digital. Digital means you're doing data analytics, you're doing robotic process automation, you're doing AI. No, I'm not saying all of them at one go, you will have to go at a gradual step. So that's the step comes around. So many of you, you still have got evolution from MRP to ERP. I can say ERP, all of you have. So now you have to think of a next step is to get e-procurement wherever feasible, like ERFX, e-reverse auction. And then once you stabilize it, then jump into digital world. If I have not got e-catalog management around, then just going into procurement 4, it could be too costly and may not be right productive way around. So this is where. Now there are various technologies which are coming up. I think we'll touch later on. I've kept the 4th session on this: IoTs, clouds, big data, data analytics. When I'm saying autonomous transportation, I'm talking within the warehouse. Robotics again within the warehouse or in the manufacturing. Virtual augmented reality, some have started using it. Those who got a big warehouses around. Manufacturing technology, particularly 3D printing. So 3D printing, every year when I go to the US and we have our annual workshop of ISM USA, which attracts around 4,000 people every year. And last time, every year I see that 3D technology being displayed around. It has grown very fast. So many parts, particularly auto parts, even aeroplanes components, which were taking months and months, you were able to do it on 3D printing. India also, some companies have started, not all, there's a limitation still, but people have started using. So 3D printing, those who are dealing with MRO's item, please look into this if you feel there's a practicality. Now this comes again on the digital enabler. I'm skipping this because I'll leave it for the last. Steps to digital, obviously you have to do with the spend. Spend analytic is very important around, and the biggest limitation I see with most of the companies is codification, taxonomy. Some people have developed their own taxonomy, great. Some are using UNSPSC, United Nations Standard Product Standard Classification, which I had chance to develop it when I was with UN. And now on the same basis, I have developed for the government of India called NSPC. So we have National Standard Product Classification System, but still a long way to go. When I see the purchase order from UP, they write something, the same item in Tamil Nadu, they write different, unless in English, but the words are different. And you can't make any head and tail how much is procurement as a pan-India basis. So that means we need a coding system around. So spend analytics will only work if you have a good coding system, good taxonomy for procurement. E-sourcing part, now I don't know how many of you are using e-auction, ERFX. So if you are having ERFX, but that means ERFX means you really need cloud system and contract management, supplier management, and last is pay-to-pay. Here I would say characteristic of digital part, S2C has to become predictive, SRM has to become proactive, P2P has to become automated. So P2P is to become robotic process automation. Now, how many of you are ready for that? I'm not saying all items could be done easily. No, there are difficulties. So please, wherever feasible, which you feel are repetitive items, painful items, and they can be done, there's hardly any variations around, you could think of RPA there around. Now the assessment part, I think I'll go with this 7 steps around. We lock a maturity level of your procurement function. The very first step of transformation is your maturity level. You have to diagnose the gaps in your performance and competence. Performance of your function. My function is wonderful. The management has given me everything, but still I'm doing very bad. That means my competencies are bad. So competency of each person. We have done for many companies around, 1 or 2 even American, Japanese company also we did recently. They put everybody on, the top leaders were gone through the leadership program, or the leadership competency, business acumen competencies, negotiation competencies. So I think the competency of each person and then organization as a whole. So once we are ready with that, then I develop my strategies. So strategy should not be that I take a cut and paste of some third company. Okay, this company has made and I use it. You can get some key points around, but it has to be based on your function, your gaps, that's what you're looking. And your strategy of the top management, your culture of the department, organization. Each culture is different. I've seen one company, the top man thinks in a different approach, other company, different approach. So either you convince them that this is how you plan to do. Develop procurement strategy. So once your strategy is ready, then develop the transformation roadmap. You guys, from here to here I have to reach. Now you're ready with the roadmap, but are people willing to buy from you? Now you have to make a beautiful case, compelling case for stakeholders and CEO. This is again, Saurabh, I'm happy that you have your stakeholders already here. So you have to get their consent. Anything procurement people do or supply chain people do, it affects everybody. You can't say it is my job, it is everybody's job. So stakeholders have to be follow with you. CEO also, the top man has to also accept it. Alone you can't do much. It has to be top down also. So CEO also has to be convinced. Once you have a compelling case, and compelling case always works on return on investment. Very first question the management will ask you, okay, we all agree with this. What is the return on investment? How much is going to change? What is going to happen? I know there's a probability. Nobody has a crystal glass in front of them, but we have to, this implementation. For implementation, again, once you got the blessing of the top management, you need a cross-functional team with the right competencies and can deliver. But doing is one thing, but KPI should be developed well in advance. How I'm going to measure the performance of it. That's the way. So this is the way we come to digital transformation part. So this is again more or less same 7 steps, but again I put in a graphical way. Well, friend, with this I think is already 12:05. Let's have a coffee break. Until you have any question before we have a coffee break? Anyone's?
Kishanji,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to bring up a point which I think you directed it very clearly. When you go back to the slide where you talked about MRP, ERP, and e-procurement, e-sourcing, e-procurement, and procurement 4.0, it's very important to know MRP is intra-departmental, ERP is organizational, e-procurement, e-sourcing is when you go outside the organization, and then when you add the smartness, that's the whole thing which you're getting. So it's kind of, that's the modality of evolution which you see in that model.
Yeah, you said very rightly. The one is the inside out and the other one is outside in. So when we talk of e-procurement, you're moving basically outside in. The supplier becomes your partner also in the ecosystem. Yeah.
Krishan sir, one more point. When we are talking about e-procurement, that is moving from an ERP domain to an e-procurement one.
Yeah.
I think that the challenges that the SCM team faces is they have to also take into consideration the digital maturity of organization, also the supply chain.
Very right.
When I look at my organization, I mean, our digital maturity, that means the capability, I'm not talking only about the current systems, but also the psyche and the maturity level of the people working in our organization to accept digital changes. That is extremely high. So anybody in our organization, be it the QA team or the engineering team or all the stakeholders, will always be ready to accept any digital change, because right from starting, we are far ahead of our industry as far as digital systems are there. But what is a black box for us is the digital maturity of our supply chain. Along with our internal users, even our suppliers should be matured enough to be able to use digital platforms, especially to give the quotation, receive the updates, etc., etc., etc. So, because as of now, we are going through the process of implementing e-procurement in our company. We have just started the supplier registration model, and maybe soon we will roll out with the ERFX and the e-bids. How do we work on building up the digital maturity of our supply chain? Because for each and every category, there might be one global suppliers who know how to use that. But for the same category, there might be some local suppliers also who might need a lot of hand-holding.
Saurabh, you touched a very excellent point. Now, I think first thing is, to me, procurement is a part of supply chain. If you look, I know in many organizations, when we talk of supply chain, it is only related to transportation, logistics, warehouse, that's all. But to me, supply chain is the mother of the whole system, end to end. Procurement is the biggest baby of this, because 70 to 80% of the spend of the supply chain is through procurement. So if I talk of logistic also is part of supply chain. Outsourcing is also part of procurement, sorry. So procurement is part of the supply chain. I know 90% still supply chain works independently, procurement works separately. So I think that linkage has to be brought in together. And with the time to come, when we're talking somebody is a supply chain leader, procurement is part of it. So that's where procurement people also should plan to become the supply chain leader.
No. So what I was seeking your help or guidance in, say when I'm implementing a e-procurement a system, that ERFX and reverse auctions.
Yeah.
My team will be okay. Not only Petrona SCM team, but other stakeholders also will be okay to use it. But how do I assess and build the maturity in my suppliers to be able to go and use those tools? Because I implement and my suppliers are not ready to use it, then it is a failed effort.
Yeah, I mean, you are right. I mean, so from your side, you are very well matured, but the people who are going to deliver to you as in the ecosystem, they are not ready for it. There's a big gap.
Yes.
What do you say?
Yes.
That means, I mean, normally we talk of one word is called supplier relationship management, and one in that SRM is developing the supplier. So that means you have to try to find either the supplier which match with you. If they don't match with you, then you have to spend some time to develop the supplier. So they have to get convinced that this is the right thing for them to grow in the future. So that homework has to be done. I mean, there's no shortcut for that.
Okay.
One challenge what I see is also when it comes to the supply chain, where Saurav was mentioning. In engineering perspective, I'm telling you, that there also a lot of digitization happens. The only problem with the supplier is with one organization, they deal with one type of e-procurement system, with other organization with other type of. So there are many n number of digitization platform which they have to deal with. That is where they find difficulty and getting into the, because it is not a single ecosystem. That's where the difficulty is actually.
I think, could we keep this question up? Because I know what you're saying around supplier might be using X system, Y system, depending on the customer. No, customer, but I thought these are all able to speak together system-wise. So when we are going to the digital, I'm keeping the last session for. So let's take this point again on this around. Will that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, guys, let's have a 15 minutes break. Then we join. Now it's 12:10. So 12:25. Is it okay? Is that okay? Or you want a shorter break or more? I don't know.
No, it's all right.
I think it's fine. Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Before you go, sir, how important is benchmarking while identifying gaps in the transformation cycle? So, how important is benchmarking with the leaders?
I might be thinking I'm the smartest guy. I have to see the benchmark. Who else is better than me? Even in the school, college, you know, we were doing around. Oh, in the school, I was topping. But if I look at the district, I was nothing. When I look at the country level, I was zero. So one has to do the benchmark at what level you're doing. Global basis, pan-India basis, pan-world basis, pan-Asia basis, whatever. Benchmarks in your own sectors are very, very important around. You know, Gartner does in supply chain and other activities around. They say they are the number one, they are the number two in the whole world. So I think that has been taught from us from the childhood itself. Benchmarks are always there and will remain, and they motivate us to go further.
Right, sir.
Well, friends, let's have a break.
Thank you.
I'll join at 12:25.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, welcome back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we start with the next one, is just to wake up a little bit. We'll have a little poll question, 5 poll question. So we are sharing with you. Have you said? Okay, I hope you all got the poll questions. Just 5 questions.
Yeah.
The first one is about the maturity level, in case you feel what level should be, or if you've done the maturity test by the evening time. Okay, guys, I got the answer for most of you, I would say. Okay, guys, coming back to the very first one, most of you have ranked yourself between 2 and 3. Some are in 3 and 4, but not a single one in 4. So the 4 means basically best in class. So what type of technologies are used by the procurement functions? Some of you are using MRP based, some are using ERP based. I would say ERP is a dominant. This is what I expected. And then E-procurement, still some of you have done 33%, but still a long way to go. Digital is the next step. Coming back to the first step of transformation roadmap is obviously, I think all of you are very right. You need to know the maturity of your function first. Competency to me is second point. First thing is the organization as a whole. Is it matured? What gaps are there around? Then based on the gap, I'll say, guys, whether my people are matching or not. Then we come to the next one as per your assessment experience under the group. So you are mostly saying procurement 2.0, some are 3, some of you are saying procurement 4.0. So is it possible to use source to pay in your organization? I think majority, 89% said yes. It should be feasible. I mean, if you're doing source to contract so far, now you are expanding source to pay. I think excellent. Okay, guys, with this, let me move to the next session then. So the session 3. Now here we're talking of surpassing the benchmark. So in session 3, we're talking of the people skill development. We're talking of use of e-procurement tools. We're talking of change management. Change management is the most difficult job because people are complacent with what they have been doing so far. You can't change them immediately and miring success. The story in this whole thing is about change. So let me give just 1 minute story on this. We all know very well when the baby elephant is there whose weight is around 100 kgs, it is put with a chain and chain is connected with one sling around. And same baby elephant, I'm talking in the domestic elephants. So when they become the big one, which is close to 1000 kgs and something, still it is a chain. And you know very well, elephant who can throw away the trees around, this is nothing. The chain is nothing. But the guy will never throw the shackle. The shackles which are created in our mind, the way we have been used to one culture, the shackles which are created the way we have been used to one way of working, and the moment you tell them to change, they will always resist. So change is very difficult. When an elephant very well knows I can just break it, but they will never break it. Because from the childhood, elephant has learned that I have to remain, the chain mean I can't go anywhere. So keep this in mind, change is very difficult task, and that is what most of the leaders have to play the role in this. And then measuring the success part. Coming back to the very first point, resilient procurement framework or supply framework, the whole thing is about governance. Governance comes with visibility. If I can't see what is happening around in the chain, my visibility is very poor, not my eyes visibility, my system visibility. It can't track it, trace it. And then the demands are fluctuating. I deal with some other FMCG company and they were making the chocolate company. The demand is so fluctuating. So based on MRP, I made my plan, then I've done something, but then 1 week before production, main few customers leaves us. You need a flexibility. And you also need collaboration. Again, cross-function. I mean, salespeople can't sit in the outside world. They have to be also joined with you. If your customer is also collaborating with you, I think it's great. Then every information doesn't come through stages. It comes to you as well. And you're able to plan and change equally. Then if I know very well, 10 customers have left us, my demand has changed, immediately I'll tell my suppliers, please hold on. So that collaboration is very important. And the last but not the least is control. Control means measuring performance, measuring success. And behind this, people are important, process is important, technology is important. I can't have visibility without technology. I can't have control, performance indication without people, good process around. So this is where everybody needs a framework on this. Coming back to the key barriers, if we want to change people, process, and the technology, I've gone with the sequence around. If your processes are outdated, technology can't do anything. If people are not willing to change and they are not savvy with digital technologies and they feel they will lose the job, nothing going to happen. They will have more and more impediments. I mean, thing will happen at the end of the day when there's a pressure, but they become impediments for you. When they're becoming too many impediments, success will not be as good. People are the very first thing. I know many times people think we can hire robots, we can do this, but still to me, even behind robots, you need a people around. Assessing the existing organ effectiveness, designing the right structure of it around, robust governance mechanism. I would say let each person go through competency test also. So once you know the competency of each one, there are 18 competencies which ISM-USA has designed. So against those 18 competencies, each person has to be tested. Now, I'm not saying all competencies are required for everybody. No. If you're the leadership level, different. If you're the management level, different. If you're the very beginning level, it's a different. Because the beginning level, you're more operational type. The moment you go up, you go to technical. Then you go at the top level, is all strategic. So skills, competency has to be checked around. Process and technology is a very second important around. I know in the good old days, it was very popular to go with business process reengineering. Now when technology comes, they come with their own package of processes. And then when they come with the process package around, which they try to give one size for all, I think there are problems around. So this is where we need to discuss in-house. Are we happy with the process? Do we want to change the process? And then accordingly, the technology has to be acquired around. Coming back to the competencies, these are the one broad competencies which has been developed by ISM-USA. Sourcing. People who are hired at the very beginning level, all of them should be very knowledgeable about sourcing, whether to use ERFX, whether to use, and negotiation is separate one, Category management also how to do it. The legal and contractual part, SRM, SPM, cost management. In the good old days, people never cared for cost management. I think now it's becoming very active. Financial analysis around, supply strategies, and S&OP, which is those who are really part of the supply chain. Procurement is a part of S&OP become very important. Quality management. I might be getting a supplier X and Y. I must be equally knowledgeable about the quality part also. So then we're talking of environment and all those things I have not put it, but I think that is also becoming very important nowadays. Project management, logistics, leadership, CSR and risk management, and ethics are also there. So ethics is equally important around, particularly when people come with a different backgrounds, different cultural background, different ethics around, we need a corporate ethics around. So corporate ethics, are we all complying with that? Systems capability and technologies. In the good old days, we never cared for system capability. We always thought IT people will do it. Now people are saying, guys, business people also need to know what they want. IT can try to bridge it. Yes, no problem. But you guys need to know what exactly you need around. Do you need source to contract? Do you need P2P? Or do you need source to pay? Do you need digital technologies or not? Then IT people can help you that where it can be done and how it can be done. Last but not the least, which I find with many Japanese companies around, business acumen. They focus quite a lot. Guys, whatever you do, you might be the smartest engineer, smartest this. At the end of the day, if you're not able to earn money with that system, it doesn't help the organization financially. All good ideas are waste. So business acumen is very important around any reporting you make around, any case you make around for justification. Business part has to be spelled it out. The financial part has to be spelled it out. So when we're talking of this type of approach, the profile of people which we are looking around nowadays is we're looking for creativity. You have to be different than what you have been doing. So you have to be out of the box around. Brainstorming has to be very frequent around when we are moving into transformation. You can't do transformation just sitting in one place. You need to get the big ideas from everybody, brainstorm them, think different, be creative. So that's the way you need people who are the leaders, who can promote people, who can motivate people and carry them together. This is another thing, ugly duck of transformation. Transformation is happening at the operational level, which is okay. I transform my processing. At this tactical level, I can transform to digital. My P2P is going on, contract management is going on. I can go with RPA. But strategic transformation is much more. The moment you do strategic transformation, impact is much bigger. So if I look at the very first pyramid, the triangle around, operationally, people are saying, okay, guys, do the business process change here. Tactically, do this. But at the strategic level, we are still not there. So strategic transformation is equally important around. So as you discussed already when we were discussing 2x2 matrix, I think you said very rightly around, we just cannot go, oh, my expenses, my profit impact is high, risk is less, I can go into leverage. But if your business is only 0.1% of the supplier, it will not work. So you need to do transformation at a strategic transformation. So without that, you cannot do it. So that's the way we look at it. Focus has to be there. So far, the people have been focusing on T&O. On the top level, people have not looked into it. Okay, guys, this one I can just switch it. Now comes the supplier manager. So when I want to be the best in the market around, best in my own group, supplier management are important. They are the one who are going to help me to become the best. If 80% of my items are coming from outside and I'm only assembling it, or my supplier is assembling everything, I'm only selling it with my brand. So supplier management is important. So supplier management could be done at the operational level, at a tactical level, and at a strategic level. Operational level means is the day-to-day interactions, what happened to delivery, calling them up, invoices, complaints, oh, you did a bad job, something like that. It goes on operational value. So operational level is one, supplier management. Technical level means then you're doing all ERFX, negotiations, supplier performance tracking, supplier development, as example you told around suppliers development part. So that means that's to me the technical. At a strategic level, when you're doing around supplier management, identifying business requirements, understanding supplier market positions. If I'm dealing with X supplier, what is their market position? Again, those 5 forces around. If supplier is only able to use 40% of his production, that's all, 60% lying waste, or is already overbooked, and your demand is only 1% of that, so that could affect you. So understanding supplier market position, analyzing supplier strategies and motivation, developing supplier strategy. That means supplier should treat you as the best customer. They should feel that you are not a nuisance, you are basically a development partners for them. Risk management and suppliers concrete. So I think this is the last one, strategic part is normally ignored. We deal with supplier at the very first level, operational level, calling them up, what happened, complaining them, invoices, tactical part at the sourcing level, but the strategic part, that will only happen when, if I look at the value pyramid, the strategic part is covered up. So this activity also needs a major change. So in the top of transformation, I think this has to come.
One, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Sir, I mean, associating and building relationship with the supplier at the strategic level also basically calls for a lot of efforts.
Yeah.
And a lot of information sharing and lot of having a deep relationship. But again, is it wide to associate with the supplier with strategic relationship building across the spectrum, or only for basically strategic category it makes sense? But for my bottleneck categories, you don't need to do that.
Very right. I think if I have got, let's say, 2,000 suppliers, I'll be crazy. I mean, if I have to do strategic relation with 2,000, I need a lot of team around. I will do only with 20% mean, because strategic will be strategic and leverage is 20%. So 20% means, let's say, 400 suppliers. Out of 400 strategic, maybe even 100. So out of 2,000, maybe 100 suppliers. So I will do strategic relationship, and because I have a trust with them, I'll do only with 100, not with 2,000. No chance.
So that means your supplier relationship management initiatives also have to be synced and in line with your strategic sourcing and the category, what strategy which you are using for which category and where it falls into the
Very right.
matrix.
But again, you should not stay static with that. If something is strategic, very critical, can I bring from critical to leverage?
That should be the way you manage your demand. Ideally, you would want to move everything to leverage.
Very right. So that focus should remain. I know some place practical, some place not practical, but mindset has to remain.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, sir.
Okay, now guys, this one is straightforward, nothing major. So technology part, management part, results, change managements. Change management, again, I put 2 words around people and culture. People may be the good, but the culture of the organization is a very laid back. Some people, same 2 friends, one goes to very challenging companies, startup companies, one goes down to big mammoth companies around, and their culture is very slow. By the time you get requisition approved, it takes days and days. By the time PO is made, it takes a month. And I'm talking a real case study around. I did for one company, 40 days average. I said, your culture is bad. It's not the people are bad. So sometimes I will not blame the people per se. It could be the culture also. So same people when they work in X country, and same people when you move them to another environment, they become so productive and everybody appreciates them. Culture also counts a lot. So business processes are there, informations. So this is a very broad information around. So when we're talking about digital transformations, which I'll be covering in the next session much more, we are moving into collaborative world. Today, when we are working information is not shared very well. But once it becomes totally digital, I've got my data analytics, information passes on to everybody. I'm doing RPA, everybody has an access to it. So collaboration also changes. Automate the process, analyze the information. So that I think will make an enormous impact around. In short, a digital model of the procurement chain creates ability to quickly and respond. It gives you flexibility. So today, if you are not done digital part, you are not very flexible. You're depending on people. And if you depend on people, you depend on spreadsheet. And spreadsheet means it takes days and days. Because I have gone through my own, when we had so many country offices, we wanted to compare around what X is paying, what Y is paying for the similar item. We were depending on spreadsheets. So by the time we get a spreadsheet, the 2 weeks had gone, comparing it up, it loses meaning sometimes. But if I want a flexibility on the press of a button, if all are connected digitally, I don't have to ask them. I can do it myself. Sitting at my remote place, sitting on the sea beach, I can find what price they have paid, what did they buy, what others have paid for the same. That's a way to go. Now, here are the few things which are the technologies area which are going to be changing it. One is supplier selection, offer request, and you could use technology like big data, advanced robotics, Internet of Things around. Here I can give you example. I think it's worth seeing it if anyone want to see www.ungm.org. And same I'm trying with the government of India also. It's called United Nations Global Market.org. Now, all the item which UN buys, UN family buys, you could put them into 20,000 taxonomies, 20,000 labels. Now, each item has a code number. All their suppliers, suppose tomorrow I want to register with their family. I have to put down all my items and services, goods and services with a code number. Now, once I'm shortlisted, so my name is already there in the database. Tomorrow I need a pump. Third day I need something distributors. Fourth day I need a pipe. Fifth day I need some computers. Sixth day I need a telephone. I needed furniture. Then all I've got a code number 53 something, 23 something. And then suppliers already shortlisted exist in the system. But that is again a dynamic system. The number of suppliers are always evolving. If today you want to add yourself, if it is one of the items they buy, they will shortlist you. And once you're shortlisted, automatically computer matches you with the item you're buying. Let's say the need has come immediately. I'm sitting in X country. My need is to buy something, you could say, let's say furniture items or computers. Now then I will see who are the possible suppliers, approved supplier. Then I get 10 or 12 suppliers. Then I'll say, okay, let me shortlist geographically, which are nearer to me. Then I get them. Then if I want, depending on how I'm a customer of choice or not, I could do e-auction. So this is where whole philosophy of procurement could be changed. Not only them, I think Government of India has done to some extent, we call GEM, Government Electronic Market. So all the items which are bought in different ministries of the government, they have listed those items. The coding system is still we are working on. They have, suppliers can, from any part of the world can register themselves. But once they are approved, they meet our expectation. So I'm sitting in Ministry of Defense, I'm sitting in Ministry of Health, or I'm sitting in Chennai, I'm sitting in any part of India. I see, okay, I have access to GEM. And then once it's only for the government sector, public sector. So if I need this item, I've got 20 suppliers already approved. And then from 20, I narrow down to 10, depending on the geographical closeness. All the 10, I tell them, guys, on 10th of this month or 20th of this month, we are doing e-reverse auction and half an hour reverse auction and the finalized price. The benchmark prices are given by each one, but still we do reverse auction and finalize the price. No audit question, no clarity around, things goes very smoothly. So that type of technology, that type of Amazon experience we need to provide. I agree with you, it is not possible for all. It is for low cost and low risk area. Offer evaluations today we are all doing manually. This can be done through robotic process automation. Big data, again for negotiations. Negotiation has also become e-negotiation. So you can see various activities which can move into digital world. So this is where I just thought we can touch a little bit. Now the digital journey, which I have explained to you, what people have started around. Now the transformation, some people think it's a sinkhole, something is a ladder. For those who are able to make a success out of it, it's a ladder. But those whose money is wasted because they depended too much on consultant, it could be a sinkhole. I would say if anything has to be done, I remember one company says, Krishan, we want to do the transformation, we want to sit together. So they will take the lead role. Outside people will come and guide you, and then you make a transformation map together. Then technology also we select together. If you're doing that way, success rate is much more. Otherwise, success rate could be very bad. And then once you got a bad success rate, people will tell you, oh, you'd spent last time so much money, it was a waste around. So that way, I think if you want to have a good name, please work together as a cross-functional. Guys, we have digital transformation. I think I'll be having much more later on this. Then cloud-based technologies and this. So you could have requisitions if you want visibility to all the possible suppliers, purchase orders. So requisitions which we have put it up in the UNGM, all the suppliers can watch it and they put their quotation immediately around. Purchase orders, purchase invoices, vendor management, integrations around. So this is where when we go with the cloud-based technologies, it's possible. Digital creates values. Certainly when we talk of digital part, you get the insights. So again, big data are there because the size is so enormous, it's a big data. You can get the insights. You can also do decision making by them. So that it's a data is a data. To me, data is a garbage if it is first thing is not clean. If data is very clean, then I suck the information from data. I make my information. That become my insights. And from insights, I get my intelligence. So that intelligence comes basically through data around. No RPA can work without data. Keep that factor in mind. Automated processes, collaboration part, that's where. Here the data part I want to explain a little bit. One is called descriptive analytics. Second is called predictive analytics. And third is prescriptive analytics. Now, majority of the people who have started using big data, they are only using inside what has happened. I want to see, okay, how much we have spent on this. Basically for spend analysis. Or how much this country has paid, how much this country has paid for the same item around. So it's basically insight into what has happened. Then predictive means I've got the pattern from the last years. From the pattern, I can see the forecast now. Again, I can use the data part around. The next step of this one, which I would say very few, very, very few, where data can be used for prescriptive part around. So seeks to determine the best outcome among various choices, given the known parameters. So I have various choices around. I put those choices. If I do this, what is the outcome? So it becomes prescriptive analytics. So descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics. So majority of the company, when they're using big data, they're still struggling with the very first one. Once they get maturity, they go to the next one. When they get more maturity, they go to the prescriptive one. The type of technology which are very popular nowadays for digital is big data, job automations, particularly RPA, artificial intelligence, and robotics. Now here I wanted to explain a little bit about digitalization of procurement. ERP is not a solution for all the pain areas. The first thing, it is very costly when you want to make a change around. You have to depend on the consultants to a lot extent. Cost is very high. Flexibility is very less. It is basically a wonderful tool to connect your organization internally. Sales people, yourself, procurement, supply chain, all are connected. Wonderful tool. For finance, it gives a wonderful control. Procurement people needs much more thing. So this is where the picture shows procurement being little taken out. I won't say taken out, but connected to this, but it works independently. It has its own systems. That's where. But certainly you need to connect with finance. So you will have to stay with ERP. On top of it, you can put other systems around. Digital transformations, no longer optional, I would say. This is the way feedback we got from many companies. So this is where MIT also found. So the impediments, the culture, I know in the beginning I was writing people. So this is where now we find people are okay, but culture is also a problem around. So after visiting that company, which I told you 40 days, then I said, guys, I won't blame people. I said culture. So until we change the culture, then I think I can do other things around. But some of you may see culture is nothing but people. Culture, sometimes it goes from the top to bottom. Sometimes it goes historically also. So when it is historically bad, people don't want to take a risk at all. They are risk averse. That's a problem. Okay, guys, let's have few poll questions before I go totally into the digital part. Yeah. Okay, guys, we have most of the feedback. On the key pillars, certainly, since I put the pillars, so there could be more than one. Collaboration is the first focus around. Second is the flexibility part, visibility. Control, nobody has put. I think trust is good, but control is equally important. So at least there's also important pillar there. Okay, now we go down to the next ones. Does ERP addresses the pain points of procurements? I would say, 9 of you have already said, 75% have said no, which is does not address. Some have said it addresses. It may address, but at a very high cost around. So to me, it is not the right one. So what are the key impediments? Certainly people, process, technologies, and organization structures around. Okay, so you have 33, majority are people supporting. Two parameters are on the top. One is people, one is structure. If organization structure is also very lazy type, Everything takes time to reach and people also. So all this work. Then we come to the next ones. What is the purpose of prescriptive? I think it helps you to best outcome among choices. That's very correct. What has happened is not the prescriptive type. So next one is what are the components of tactical supplier management? Tactical part is RFI, negotiations, supplier performance, supplier development. Risk management is certainly not part of tactical. Risk management is part of strategic. You have to keep in mind. So that's the one last one which you put down, risk management. One person has said 8%. So that means that is the one which will go under this one. Yeah. Okay, guys, with this, I think we've done this. So let me repeat what we have done so far, and then we come to the next step. So before I come to the session 4, now here the focus is purely digital journey. Now, very first session was all about understanding the need for a change. That's what we call transition. Second session was all about transformation. That means knowing your maturity level, knowing your competency, knowing all those things around before you are ready for transformation. Then we went through the 7 steps around. So to me, the 7 step, the first step is maturity. And then once I feel maturity wise, then I know my gaps, I work on it. The third was transcend part. The transcend means I want to do better than my benchmark. I want to do that. So we gave some idea about what we call as the digital word, that we have to become digital. And we also talked about the competency of each person, what we need. Competency mapping is also required. So every department should also do competency mapping. Like say, if I'm trying to know, I got 20 people reporting to me, and if I want to assess their negotiation style, if the negotiation style of all is same, then something is wrong. Negotiation style we are putting into 5 categories around. Actually, we have also psychometric test on negotiation style. Some are very warm people. They work very well in one particular environment. Some are hardcore. They work in another environment. Some, when you are not very good customer for the supplier, they know how to manage it, supplier. They are the deal makers. Some are very logical people. They only talk of logic, but you know very well, logic doesn't work everywhere. So when you're doing negotiation, it is not the logic per se. If customer, supplier think that you are not important to them, you might be saying, oh, the cost is so much, why you are charging me this? The guy is not going to listen to you at all. So you need a different type of negotiation style of each one. So this is where I thought we talked about the competency, we talked about the organization, and maturity also we talked about, not at the strategy, but also at our level. Yes, anyone's? Yeah, Balaji, you have something? Okay, if nothing, then I'm now moving to the session 4. So here certainly I'll spend a little more time understanding the digital transformation. So I'm assuming by now that you know how to move from transaction to tactical, tactical to strategic, and strategic to category. And now we are totally focusing on value. And value means digital transformation. And I will also try to give you some flavor on digital technologies in a simple way so that you understand what changes are there. Then automating the process and the future of procurement. What you feel, here we could have a discussion around, and I would be very happy if we could have a brainstorm. Okay, that means what is procurement going to look like? Will it appear? Will it remain or not? And how it will look like in the years to come. Okay, guys, with this, let's start with the very first one, creating the chain of transformation. I think I already explained the word digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. Digitization is conversion of analog process to digital. Very simple. I told you that I scan a page, store it. That means I have converted from analog to digital. But by nature, it is not digital. Then digitalization means my invoice is going in your system electronically. I don't have to give you anything. My purchase order is going on your system. I don't have to give you hard copies. So basically no paper. Is paperless. So all those activities are paperless. Digital transformation means now I'm done my one function, but as a whole broad function, there are many activities. I want business as a whole to be digitalized. So that's what we call digital first model around. That's what digital transformation comes. The benefits obviously will be that since everybody is connected, happiest users, so we're getting out of pen and paper. We got a dashboard approach. I'm sure most of you are working with the big companies. You have your own dashboard. The moment you come in the morning, dashboard tells you which are the problem, where you're lacking as per your plan. Removal of tedious tasks. There are some projects, I think procurement is a very labor intensive. Over the years, Hello, you want to say? Hi. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead. Okay, if nothing, then let me move to the next one. The tedious task around procurement is a very labor intensive work. And if some activity I can make it automated, the very first thing comes to me in my mind is always P2P. Supplier is fixed, prices are fixed, only thing I have to create a purchase order. Or if I've got an inventory level, I'm in a retail business, my inventory level goes down and I've kept the minimum inventory level. The moment it becomes minimum, it automatically generates a PO to my supplier. So that's the way it has to go around. That's what we call automate many of my tedious processes, which are very iterative process, mundane process. People get bored with same thing doing again and again. That could be done through this. Significant return on investments. Nobody will join your bandwagon until there's an ROI. Keep in mind. So until you justify the ROI, nobody is going to buy you for this bandwagon. Decision making becomes very well because you have visibility. If today I can see, if I'm depending on suppliers on the phone, but now I can see where it is, where the item is stuck, what is going to be the situation in the sea or something, I can take my decision much faster. I don't depend on X and Y, I can see physically. Then improved with agility part. So agility means like a lion, then you're able to agile and you're able to take a decision. When you're able to decide, you get the clear insights, I am becoming more agile. I won't wait till the end. Cut costs. So when you're trying to cut down, streamline your operations, you're doing robotic process automations, things are becoming 5 times or 6 times faster, you're cutting the cost also. Now here comes again, I think, 80s strategic, e-procurements, and then come digital. Keep in mind, you cannot jump to digital without doing proper e-procurement. If I have not implemented category management, because the category management will give me the data, and then that data I can use for my digital purpose. I cannot say, guys, I don't need e-procurement, I don't need strategic, I just go with RPA, what for? But RPA needs some data, RPA needs some insights, so you need that E word around. From strategic, if you want to jump to digital, then you need spreadsheets around. But if you want to do from e-procurement, then it is purely digital. E-procurement is creating the insights, and those insights are moving into digital world. So this is where the future of digital procurement, I think this makes very clear around category management or strategic management, depending on where you are. You can also move from strategic to straight to digital, not an issue around. But I would still say if you feel there's a need for category management, go for category management and then plan for digital. First, it makes sense to work with supplier. So category management and then think of, so SRM, you need to develop it. And then risk management, risk management. So all these three things you need to really work on an E-word around. Then from E-word, I go to the digital word. E-word gives me the data. So e-procurement becomes very critical for all of them. ESRM, e-category management, all those things around. Now the tools which are used around, one is very common, is text mining around, data mining around, smart contracts. I don't know if any one of you using smart contracts. Smart contracts are basically an outcome of blockchain technology. Let me explain you a little bit what is smart contracts. So you have a contract. Contract is nothing but your responsibility and your liabilities and all these things. Your responsibility is that, okay, guys, if you do 20%, I'm taking a contract on a services contract. If you've done this much, your payment will be 20%. If you do this, your payment will be 30%. Now, smart contract can check all those things around. So that means my contract is in a digital world. It's not a hard copy that somebody writing to me, oh, well, guys, we have done this much as per the plan, so our payment is due. But my smart contract, which is more of a digital nature, it can automatically see this much, but the first milestone is 20% work. And this milestone says this work, a design has been made. So the guy is ready to pay for 10%. The guy has developed a training material for us, is eligible for 10%. If I say training material is made, purchase order says also the amount, 10% is so much. The guy for whom it is made is also says done. The payment goes automatically. So you don't have to create extra requests for payments around. So smart contracts, particularly for milestones contracts, works very smartly, and this is an outcome from the blockchain team. I know the blockchain is still going a little slower, but some people are moving into smart contract very fast. Sensor tracking, for those who are dealing with food items, those who are dealing with even agriculture items or pharma items, where you feel you want to track the temperature, you want to track the humidity of the items around. So you have IoT, Internet of Things, on each and every item. Your shipment is going, there's an IoT. And then IoT, then you have a sensors. And that information is going to the clouds, and you get the information totally yourself. You don't have to go back to the supplier. What is the status around? Are the temperatures maintained or not? I can do all that. And last but not the least is robotic process automation. The one which is becoming very fast is data, RPA. Smart contracts, few I have seen in India who have done it, and is picking up. Which function to digitize first? I think this question will come to you, many of you, because you have done up to category level. Now you want to move into the digital world. So before you jump into this, I'll say walk before you run. Sit down and spend time mapping procurement process. And look around which could be the relevant one. I would say take something where you can show that. I think the data is the very first one. Data management, if you can do, data analytics you can do, data prescriptive you can do, you have made a big headway. Because data prescriptive becomes my intelligence then. So I think start with that. Then you want to do a smart contract, particularly those who are dealing with services contract, they can do it. So pick a function that touches at least the least amount of people and least expensive to automate. If it is function which is affecting everybody in the whole organization, you will get a lot of registers. So take the very first one which affects very few departments, few functions, and you as a leader are able to convince them, then yes. But if you take the most difficult things, and if it fails, I tell you, it's very difficult to come with the new ideas immediately, because the management will say, oh, you did 2 years back, it was a failure. So you have to be very careful what to do. So here comes again, I think, different technologies around. Why digital technologies? Obviously, it helps us speed part, streamline, lower cost operations, reduction, elimination of routine tasks, happy users, rapid speed, real-time visibility. From source to pay, you have visibility around in the value chain. Again, this one I've explained you, IoT, big data, AI, and all the blockchain is coming up. The blockchain, let me tell, I know this is still far off, but the blockchain, the way concept came around, it came in 2008, 9, when the recession came. Big banks in US, people thought their old pension fund, this fund, they're all gone away. The trust had gone to the banks. Then people thought, guys, why do we need a middle person? Bank is a middle person. So the middle person now, that means you are giving to the bank, and then now idea was, can we do something person to person, peer to peer? So we came with the concept of block. If I give you another example around, let's say you have a WhatsApp group, you have a Twitter group, all information of you is going centrally. And that central information, somebody could misuse it, could sell it to the other companies around. They can understand your taste of particular food habits, your ideas about particular politics, about particular community. You can get those things around and sell it later on. So that centralized information, like a centralized bank, is risky. So now even the Twitter has come up around that they will convert their whole system from centralized to decentralized. So decentralized is more of a democratic system. And those who are based in Dubai, some of our friends, I think Dubai is already trying to implement by this year and blockchain in many of the activities around. So decentralized means it's a very democratic system. Let's say we are 15 people together. Instead of going through one side, we are all doing messages to each other. And those messages remain safer and nobody can misuse around. But once they go to the central place, anybody can misuse it. So this is where the concept came around. I think the very first time UN did one for the blockchain implementation in Lithuania. They did it for medical line. Then they did another project on elections. So that means you don't have to go to the counter somewhere. Sitting at home, you can press the button and that's all. If you're listed already in the blockchain, I create a block, then it has to be validated. Validation will depend on X and Y parameter. Once it is validated, it goes into the chain. So blockchain, you could say, is a decentralized approach around. It's a ledger, basically, decentralized ledger. It builds a trust. Centralized system, people are losing trust. So people want decentralized system. Reduce the cost around, and it can accelerate the transaction. So this is how it works on the very one slide I'm showing around. You make a request for transaction. You have got many peers. Peers could be public peers. It could be private peers around. Public means if it's relating to public sector, any suppliers could come and everybody could come. But in a private mean, you have a selected peers around. Information goes, and all those peers which are, once it is validated, and after validation, it comes to the chain. So then once it is validated, nobody can make a change around. That's all it is. So in one word, if I say around blockchain is encrypted, digital ledgers, recording transactions chronologically and publicly. It goes by day, data by data, and they are all validated by the concerned person. To some extent, you have the validation in-house also, when you make a purchase order. So same way validation could be done by the connected people. In the private blockchain, people are defined who can do the validation. In a public, it is a different story. The negative part of the blockchain is still, speed is slow. Let's say, if I talk of the other system like Visa card, this card, transaction mean 2,000, 3,000 transactions per second. Here it goes very slow still. So people are trying to improve it, and once speed becomes bigger, and IBM is doing a big job on this, Linux is doing quite a lot of work on this. So we hope this will be soon there. Some have already implemented in the retail business. Even I've seen one in India also, many companies have already implemented. Like particularly who are dealing with the milk chain, you want to be very truthful that this is correct. People are using the blockchain there. Now the landscape of use cases, what type of things we can transform the value chain. The very first thing is identify and create values. Now I want to landscape the people who are using it, spend visibility. So you want spend visibility, that means you want all the data of spend coming to you spontaneously. I can have those spend data without even digital. I can ask someone, give me the list and give me a spreadsheet. But then that is not real-time basis. If my whole system is digital, and then I have a reporting system which says, guy, at the end of the day, I want how much spend has been done. Category-wise, supplier-wise, department-wise, I can get that. So my spend visibility becomes a wonderful tool for my value chain. Second is coming collaborative and advanced resource. I could have categories, strategy workflow, portal. I could have category analytics solutions. I could have clean sheet. I don't know how many of you are using it. There are few companies who work a lot on clean sheet. They say, guys, don't tell me the last year price and add 10%. No. We might have been inefficient. So can we think of it, if today you have to do that thing, how will you do it from a clean slate sheet angle and tell me what is going to be the cost? Because sometimes when we do the costing based on our existing system, we are handicapped because we feel we cannot make changes. So we work with a clean sheet and should cost analysis come there. But now people are moving into this. Few companies have come up in India to us. Say, Krishnan, can you help us? How do we implement clean sheet in costing? The business part, collaboration portraits, digital platform. So whenever we're getting into digital part, I think cross-functional become easier. Information is shared very quickly. The next one which comes, the supplier qualification and selections. This can also be done quickly. It can help you to add values. If all my suppliers are connected with my ecosystem, if suppliers are already qualified, pre-qualified based on my code number, and then the moment I put the item, this is what I need, it automatically picks up who are the 10 or 12 suppliers which can serve your purpose, and then I can do my bidding part. ERFX, supplier collaboration platform. Suppliers are also connected digitally with me, so they treat as partner with us. I know this question of collaboration has different experience in many countries around. If you think of SRM, it was basically a very Asian thing around. Because for us, relationships are very important in our personal life. Then same thing with concept was expanded in Japan, Toyotas and other companies around. He says, guys, no. So they basically became one mother company, then small companies. Relationship became like a family. So that collaboration improved. And that is what made them success. So when even the Japanese company moved to the US, they followed the same model in the auto company, both Honda and Toyota. So being in Kentucky, being in a different world, they followed the same approach, not hire and fire, not contract and then fire them up. They followed the approach of collaboration and they succeeded very well. So those who are in the US, they can tell you how they succeeded. So that part I think is very important. And that is only possible if you have a digital approach. Otherwise, difficult to manage it. Now, this is on the value addition side and creation side. Now, value leakage could be there around on the P2P. So if I have got this automated around, I can avoid the value leakage. Performance management, again, I can avoid this. So this is two big part one need to look around from the customers. So this one, I think we have covered quite a lot already. Robotic process automations. Now keep in mind, I know I'll touch a little bit about the robotic process automation and IoT part. This is the purpose, is to avoid or minimize manual intervention. You want contactless. If something I'm doing step by step, as I said to you, procurement is a very labor intensive. If you go to any procurement department, you find piles and piles of paper. So we want to move to the paperless world. So that means that is the yardstick around. When I say paperless or digital, mean on the table there is nothing, clean table. So it helps in minimizing this. Wherever you feel helps in process where there's a need for human intelligence to take this. If you feel you need a need for human intelligence, so this gives me the inputs, insights, then human beings can, based on RPA, can take this. Helps in developing strong audit trails, because since it is done by computers, they can see the audit trail from beginning to end. Nobody can hang around. It helps in reducing human efforts. RPA is not a cognitive tool. Keep that in mind. RPA is not in artificial intelligence. RPA is not machine learning. So it's not a cognitive computing solution, which AI is, ML is, RPA is not. RPA is only automating your routine, mundane job, repetitive job, processes, nothing more. AI part, now AI can learn from data and become better with time. RPA will remain the same. Over the time also, until RPA change the process, it will remain the same. But AI is linked with the data, so data tells them, guys, this is a trend. Then based on the trend, AI can become smart. Intelligence is a non-human entity. So when I talk of artificial intelligence, that means it is not by the people per se, it is by non-human entity. So they do the way they have been programmed around. This gives a wonderful ideas around robotic process automation, desktop automation, robotic process automation. This whole thing is a process. So you have mechanical step one, do this, check the price, check the description, does it match with the requisition or not? That's what we do. So when I'm trying to do a POs or something, I'll see whether it is matching this. I'm doing P2P. So I'll see, okay, the supplier is matching. Prices, what we are putting up is matching or not. So so that means it's basically a process driven. If anybody request comes to from P2P, they'll say, guys, okay, I have to buy computers. Do we have a contract with anyone? Yes. Then answers, which are the choices available? Which choice is better? What price it does? So those processes I'm doing automation. So it's a process driven. While machine learning and artificial intelligence are data driven. Keep that in mind. So machine learning, I've got my algorithmic. If that happens, I've got data. So data, I put them into a formulas. It can tell me something. But then artificial intelligence goes more, the way we think around, it goes further. That means machine learning is a subset of that. It tries to understand, guys, what is happening with this? What do I deduct from this analytics around? It gives you some idea about RPA, which I think may be easier to understand. Let's look at a human angle. Then you can easily correlate. My eyes are my IoT. Am I right? Internet of Things. RPA plus RPA. Now, if I got this IoT, I see something. This guy is coming behind me and going to hit me. That information from the eyes goes into my head, data bank. Then I have my chip, the natural chip, which God has given me. Then my artificial intelligence thinks something going to come and hit you. IoT and AI mixed together, then I have an RPA. The RPA means my head tells me, guys, raise your hand. This guy is behind you. What do I do? So this is basically human automation, you can say, where my eyes are seeing something, my head, it automatically signal goes up, and the moment signal goes up, it also realizes I have to protect myself. And then I raise my hand, I try to hit the guy, RPA comes. So this is how you can correlate IoT, AI, and RPA. I hope this example gives you wonderful ideas around the way human thinks, same way the system thinks. We are nothing but we are copying the similar ideas into automated system around. This is another one of IoT. I have the sensors here. I have got the IoT tech, Internet of Things around. So information about temperatures, information about humidity, my pharma items are coming, medical supplies. All this information is going to the cloud, and from cloud it comes to me. And that means supplier cannot play with it. Otherwise, supplier could be very nasty around. They'll take this information. If information is not matching, they will change it. But once it is going on the real-time basis, I get the truth, and that's the way it is. So IoT are becoming very important for tracking, tracing, knowing the status of the things. Now let's talk of the same value chain now. The one I explained earlier. Now we have upstream, downstream. Upstream I have got basically is spend analytics. Now spend analytics also, if I want on a real-time basis, I must have e-tools around. But if I don't have online basis and I want to do on a spend part based on spreadsheets, my whole system little bit fails apart. I cannot analyze the value on the upstream side. So if you want to get the values in the very first upstream side, up to number 4, spend has to come, e-sourcing has to be there. So once I got e-sourcing, ERFX, so my spend can find all the relevant data, TCO part, analyze the optimization. All the data can be analyzed by spend. And then the next comes the contract lifecycle management, contract authoring part, contract this. So all those things are coming into this. And the next one is supplier management. So all these 4, which I told you earlier also, they're very important from a value chain. All the supplier management, if it is not digital, contract lifecycle management is not digital, e-sourcing is not digital, my spend part, information, or any analytics part will be very outdated. So if you want to know the status as on the real-time basis, all these activities first has to be put on an e-basis. That means you have to go for e-procurement. And last but not the least is the knowledge management. So whatever you guys are learning from here, try to store the knowledge part. So I think this one I've touched to some extent. Cloud-based technologies. Today, I think everybody is moving into this. I would love to know how many of you have moved to the cloud world. I mean, this concept came in 2010, 11, just started picking up. Today, those who went into this field, they are the leaders now. In today's eras, I would say when we talk of digital era, cloud first strategy is the new normal. Mobile adoption, I think many of the people who are looking even at the website, they use a mobile phone. Everybody is not going through the laptops around, so mobile adoption is very important. Cloud adoption is imperative for agility and flexibility. So if you want to be agile, you want mobile to be connected, cloud system to be available, choices should be there. Or realize the necessity of cloud technologies around reliability and scalability. The last but not the least is ecosystem. If I've got 20,000 suppliers, if they are not connected to my system, which may have limitation with ERP, I want that they should be able to share my information with me. And I should be able to share information with them based on, I'm not saying everything, wherever the need comes in. Process automation benefits around the way we look at it. It helps you to increase the throughputs. I mean, that is no second thought. The Roberts works nights. Robert doesn't need a coffee break. Roberts works on the weekends and doesn't take break at all. So your throughput also goes up. If P2P, if I got a one staff members, at 6 o'clock the staff member leaves, but P2P, if I say, guys, here are the 20 items I upload into the RPA, all can go overnight even, when even nobody is there around. Efficient, obviously when this is automated, it's more efficient, fast, quicker, speed-wise, flawless, chances of errors are less. If I'm a manual person, today I'm tired, I have a problem, health problems, I'm doing something and the next purchase order, there could be error. I've seen in the good old days when we used to do handwritten purchase orders. And even with this number, somebody will write extra zero of some mistakes around, or sometimes it is 6, or something could be misunderstood as 9. All that type of things I've seen around, errors around. But now with the digital world, the chances are less. It's a flawless. The focus increase implies engagement. So in a process, if it's a mundane job, I get bored. Let's be honest, we are all human beings. We get bored with a mundane job. So once you're giving them more strategic job, as Saurabh was saying, if we put them into the senior job as analyst job, we train the people as an analyst around. So that means there's much more engagement around this time. So you get much more in that way. Procurement in the future, if I talk around, future operational and technical procurements are likely to include robots, conducting different activities around. Somebody happened to share with me yesterday on this one company where 70% of the production is going through robots. So in short, in the time to come in next 10 years or 15 years or maybe 20 years, depending on sector, you will have to work with robots. Your colleague would be the robots. The robots would be able to understand your language also. So if you say something, they can pick up. So conducting different activities with the help of artificial intelligence.
Look at Siri and Google. They are able to understand our instructions already.
Yes, I know, but how many companies have implemented in the manufacturing, they are doing it. But service side, not much. Our other side, manufacturing, production side, people are using it. You're right. Actually, if we look around, I know when Saurabh was saying we are ahead, production people have moved much faster. But procurement, supply chain, even finance has gone very good when it comes to their analytics. Procurement and supply chain, they are still left behind when I look at the analytics side.
Sir,
to digitalize, but
again, if we break inventory or demand management from procurement, demand management is far ahead because they do have the data so that you can churn the data and take the decision. Your forecasting, your demand forecast, and you're basically, but procurement still, they are not able to think that somebody can think better than us.
That's a mindset you have to change around. When you said demand, I have seen company Apple because one of my own relatives is working there. He was the director of the demand management there. And they're all damn PhD people doing this demand management with this formula, with this algorithmic. I mean, it's becoming very high tech.
Yeah.
So that's where procurement people also have to think around which area we become more strategic. And strategic means you need people with the right backgrounds, right mindset, right savvy on technology. If they're not savvy on technology, they will lose, I tell you. That part is there.
So because practically many people think that if we use technology, then our job will become redundant. Now we are faced with two choices. Either accept what is coming down the way and be prepared for it, or get surprised when it's already there.
You're right. We have no choice. Either we deal with it or die. That's all.
Yes. Either adapt or you will go away. So it's better to accept the fact that yes, technology is going to change most of the things that we are doing now. Now we have to take our skills to the next level. That how do we manage the technology?
Excellent. This is where there's no second thought about it. But I know there are some people very difficult. They say we have been doing for 20 years. How can you tell us overnight? But the world has become very competitive when I see around. Let me, I think, link with this. I have now seen 4 decades around, 80s, 90s. People used to grow by years of experience and how many years you have on the head. With the experience you are rising around. Well, I've got 10 years, 12 years, you are promoted. But now when I see around, people are young with only 4 years, 5 years, they're coming at the boss of you. So the whole world is changing around. So those who have changed their mindset, who have learned the new skills, they go very fast. And those who are still living in the old dynamo, they will be left behind. So change.
I will give a use case example for, how technology or industry 4.0. There is a company called as MTN Mobile. It is the largest mobile operator in Africa. And they have their centralized sourcing organization, which is actually a PNL. They made sourcing procurement team as a PNL. Now they have developed an in-house robot for automation, robot for a negotiation. So basically, whenever a supplier gives them a code on their digital platform, their data engine analyzes the data, that what was the price, how many change, every commodity they have linked to another commodity which are working on the background. So if it is a metal, they will immediately go back, okay, how is the LME working for that? So first 2 rounds of negotiation is done by the robot itself.
Because Robert has got data of all the London Metal Exchange. Oh, this price, this one is the commodity level. This is this.
Yes, and it also mines the data from all the mobile operators. Also have created a consortium whereas they will share their information for some commodities. And the first 2 rounds of negotiation is done by a robot. So practically, where all the supply chain and procurement people are thinking negotiation is a key skill, within next 5 years that will go.
Certainly, and sometimes you won't know with whom you are communicating, with whom you are negotiating. Because their sound is good, the quality of sound is improving a lot. Okay, guys. So one thing is very clear for the procurement for the future: the changes are going to happen around. We have to improve it, and that also I want to again explain around that means when you're moving in this transition, don't jump to the last step without going through the steps. You have to implement category management, you have to implement strategic sourcing, you have to implement SRM, and those are the ones which will create data for you, and data will be used for analytics and negotiation or whatever you want to talk about. So first you have to strengthen your base itself. So there's no shortcut to that, the way I look at it. So the last one I would say, the final thoughts is, ultimately, procurement is about more than procuring goods. It is not just ensuring supply. You have to go more than that. Okay, this time I've ensured supply. I learned some lesson. Now that lesson should help me to do better next time. So it is not just I got the goods and services, I saved 5%. But what lesson I learned from here, can I use it next time so that I do better? One is I use the conventional wisdom. Second, I use my tools, technology, which could do better. So we have to think of careful observations to meet the cost targets, deadlines, quality standards. So if we have put down these standards around, they should be built into the data analytics also. So it is a vital part of the business for any companies around. And today is when procurement is becoming the key business. If I'm talking again, Apple company, it's a key. Outsourcing is done by procurement. Everything is done by them. So the whole success depends on them. So I think their word is listen, even at the CEO level. Even the CEO of Apple, all of you know, this guy came from procurement and supply chain background. So digital transformation is sweeping across all the sectors of the companies. economy. To remain competitive and grow the revenues, I think this should become a core part of the future business strategy, the way I look around. So now it is left for you, the leaders part, to convince your top management, the C-level people, okay, guys, this is very important if you want to achieve something. Well, friend, with this, I want to thank you again. Before we go back to the polls questions, let's see. We can do poll quickly and then we have Q&A time. I hope everybody got the poll questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I can see most of you have done. So let me go back to the, I'll just end the polling part. So let me see share the results. If you look at the very first one, that is very straightforward. All of you said two are different things. Digitization and digitalization, both are not same, they're two different things. Now, which of the following digital technology have been implemented? Big data to some extent, 10%. And then we have got IoT, RPA is the maximum number I see around. 3D printing. I would love to hear maybe after this from those of you who have implemented RPA for the benefit of others, what activities you have done under RPA and what item you're buying under 3D printing. It must be MRO items and IoT also where you're using around. Then we have the next ones. What is the first step of digitalization? Obviously, everybody agrees that the digital maturity has to be checked around. Implementation of category management. So assuming the category management you're reached, now you're reaching up to digitalization. So first step would be that. Do you agree that AI and ML are data driven? I think all of you agree that yes, without data, I can't do anything. So, because you have to keep in mind, RPA is a process oriented. You have steps and those steps are converted electronically. It becomes RPA. In AI and ML is all about data. So that's one. I think majority you said yes. What are the procurement process that can be covered? I think some of you have said P2P. I think majority cases. So I would love to hear from you which you have done, and contract management. That's all. So guys, before we go further, does anybody want to share their experience on the digital technology, which are the ones they started implementing, particularly RPA, or then IoT and 3D printing? Anyone's?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is coming from the logistics standpoint, where we have the third-party logistics submitting the invoices, and that has been picked up by the team in my side, where we analyze the invoices and pay them against those invoices. So the team normally calculates the demurrage charges and other unwanted charges. So the RP has introduced in taking those invoices, quickly do a quick match, and then pull up the results and pull out the only defaulters for them to evaluate. So this is the process where we have done the RPA in terms of just giving the minimal data to team to analyze rather than doing the whole bunch of invoices.
Excellent, excellent. I think this is very good. Although very simple, straightforward, but I think I'm sure very productive also.
Yeah, very productive.
Okay, anyone else has got some experience on 3D printing? The 3D printing I'm eager because we had done already one company, I mean with Indigo. They started using it few parts, not I'm saying all parts. Anyone who has done for anything else for 3D printing? Okay, IoT, anyone's? Someone said they're done.
For 3D printing, this is Bhaskar here. For 3D printing, we use that especially for image construction in the healthcare industry, especially when we're talking about images and shapes and things, so that we have a better idea as to how the object looks like before we perform surgery.
Okay. So basically you're doing computer-aided design, and then from that you're going to do the manufacturing part. So you're doing it at that level, but now manufacturing level at the 3D printer, that one is still to be done.
Yeah, we don't do it on the procurement side yet, but it's being driven from basically images internally. So we use that on that basis.
Okay. Excellent. Now, anything else anybody want to share before we jump to the Q&A then?
Yes, sir. This is Amit. So I'm into the material handling equipments manufacturing. So we are using IoT for the battery management system. So wherever the trucks, lift trucks or pallet trucks is running inside the warehouses or in the manufacturing plant, so we are taking care of the performance of the batteries, how many hours they are running, what is the charging conditions and discharging conditions. So we are using IoT for that.
Great. Now, I think this makes wonderful things around IoT, and there's another one called RFID when you linked up the warehousing. I think these people did, the Walmart did around, they have a big warehouse, around 1 million items as SKU. To do the auditing from one end to another end was taking 1 month. They put RFID on every item. I know it costs a lot, but the whole audit part with the help of drones, they could do it in 1 day. So that's the advantage you have of the technologies around in terms of speed, accuracies, that's the way around. So IoT also could be equally used around. So the way I have seen in India, mostly for pharma company, and one is for this agriculture products, particularly when they get spoiled, the temperature and the. Still IoT costs a lot in terms of its chip and this, the cost is high. So that's the way it is. Okay, guys, if nothing else on this, so let me thank you on this.